afraid to speak his mind. So we need more people to speak out. We need more voices out there. And it's good to see young people here interested. I see you guys here. You guys look fairly young, which is good. That young people are interested in freedom of speech. My son's 14, my oldest son, and he sees through the BS. So the generation coming up after these insane millennials, no offense there, any millennials out there in the audience, but he sees the writing on the wall. He sees what's going on, and he's not afraid to confront teachers, confront students, and it's good. It's good, but because the brainwashing is thick, the brainwashing is hardcore that's going on in America. We see it in the education system, and that started back, I don't know if any of you guys know this, back around World War I. There's a group that got together that eventually formed the Carnegie Endowment for Peace, okay? And what did they figure out? The way to change society was more war. So they made sure Woodrow Wilson got into World War I and stayed there for an awful long time. And by doing that, they were able to create industries and control of banking fortunes to then start making these endowments. And so what they do with these endowments is they fund different programs that are used to educate children. So the Carnegie Endowment for Peace is really not for peace, it's for war. And there's plenty of other things. Like the Federal Reserve isn't federal. Some of you guys might know some of this stuff, some of you might not. Quick show of hands, how many people are here to see Alex Jones? All right, everybody. Good. All right, well, he will be down here in just a second. He wanted to kick off this event, and then he's also headlining at the end. And as people are filing in, eating, we'll see how hopefully this will be a packed room at the end of the night, and we'll have lots of rousing applause and screaming and a lot of free speech. Does anybody have a word that they don't want to hear tonight? Anybody? Shout it out real quick. No? Okay, good. No trick. We don't want to trigger anybody. Just kidding. Actually, we do. And hopefully there's some triggering going on tonight. But let's see. I was waiting for Alex to come in. I gotta keep playing for time. So I'm going to go to, oh, by the way, if you don't, I'm on Twitter a lot. They haven't suspended me off there yet. And my Twitter is @DewsNews, DWSNEWZ. Just want to look through here to see what, oh, this was interesting today. Rob Blagojevich. Let me read this tweet. I'm a little tipsy, so I can tell you this. There's a reason Barack Obama was so passionate about the 2015 Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage. He has slept with numerous men. Sorry, Barry, had to. So, Rob Blagojevich, I think, thought he was going to get a pardon from Barack Obama, and he didn't. If you haven't seen his interview that he did, I saw a short 2 minutes of it on Twitter, and he said this is part of a 2-act play. And there was a first act that ended when he got out of jail. Now we're going to start the second act, which I think is going to uncover a lot of corruption in the Chicago area. And, well, I don't have to, do I have to reclaim any more time? I don't think so. So I want to bring up a man that I think has influenced a lot of people, and a lot of people, inspired a lot of people to stand up and get passionate about their freedom of speech, about what's going on in their world, instead of just worried about, jacking around in the latest fad. Because, in fact, I watched Con Los Terrorista video. Remember the Harlem Shake? Alex, you said something really funny at the end of that. You said, yeah, it's fun to do all this, but what they want to do is keep us in suspended development at a 12-year-old age so they can control us. And that was really poignant. And but that was one of the many things we do. We hijack memes that are going on out there and take them and then turn them around and say, look, this is what's really going on. And Alex Jones taught me how to do that very well, and also how to write really good headlines, which he does every day at InfoWars.com. He's going to introduce the event now. Give you a warm welcome for Alex Jones.
Well, there's a big old traffic jam on Seattle. We appreciate all you that got here early, so we're going to start pretty much on timer tonight. We've got a big, long list of great speakers coming up, like Gad McGinnis, Owen Schroyer, Nick Fuentes, and so many more. Lee Stranahan. I'm going to be speaking. Deanna Lorraine's going to be speaking. She's amazing. And Gad McGinnis comes up right before I do. And we're going to have Q&A later. And there's a big traffic snarl, but we're not going to start this too late. We're going to go ahead and start this right now and get folks here. But the exciting thing that's happening is that Whether you're a liberal or whether you're a conservative or a libertarian or a political atheist, people are angry about political prisoners. And everybody I talk to is so angry about what's happened to Julian Assange and about what's happened to Roger Stone. It's so transparent that they're trying to persecute innocent people that have stood up for what they believe in and who've done valiant, courageous things. I just talked yesterday to Randy Credico and a member of the Scottish Parliament that have been at those hearings, and they're under such incredible threats in the UK, they're almost even scared to even come on my show. So that shows you the level of the intimidation that's taking place. And you've got this Judge Amy Bergen Jackson who got caught rigging the Roger Stone jury with Democratic Party operatives. The crime of doing that and being caught repeatedly and trying to say it's illegal to expose the crime that's been committed, it's simply amazing. So yes, we're in digital media, and I reach over 300,000 people every segment as rated on just commercial radio. The globalists thought they'd try to take me off Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. They didn't realize I was still on over 200 radio stations and over 100 TV stations, because that's their arrogance. They jump the gun. They abuse the power of big tech. The old days, UHF, VHF TV, you watched television, it didn't watch you. Now, big tech is watching everything you do. And out of the gates, not just surveilling you, not just selling your personal data, but now watching what you say and do in live time and telling you that it's going to penalize you if you don't follow the orders they issue. So the fact that out of billions of people served in InfoWars, the fact that in the middle of the DC traffic jam and rainy streets, and with 2 days announcing this, that one person or 100 people or 1,000 people show up is an act of defiance against the tyrants and is a beautiful thing. So about 10 minutes ago, they're like, listen, there's traffic jams from CPAC, everybody's coming over. We need to wait till they get here. And I said, listen, those are all great folks. But the people that got here on time, that's who I'm here to speak to, because they're the people that really care about justice and freedom. But it's bigger than that. We use the third dimension to, like art or culture, to promote truth and justice in radio shows and films and articles and clips and information, to promote humanity and not go along with the cookie cutter. That is truly what is empowering, and it's happening right now. Now, coming up in about 2 hours when I give my 20-minute speech, I'm going to get into the smoking gun evidence of governmental funding of censorship of the American people and the blueprint they believe to have us not stand up for each other, where they pick off one person here, one person there, and by the time they get to you, there's nobody to stand up for you. Now, that's really a common sense thing we know in history. It happens, but it's happening again right now, and we have a real chance to say no to this. But my main mission tonight was to simply point out that President Trump is very transactional. If he doesn't think you have something to bring to the table, President Trump is not going to deal with you. And that makes sense in business. And he believes in America, and he's promoting our country, and he's standing up to Chi-Coms. I'll give him an A- report card, because when it comes to standing up for free speech and standing up against big tech cartels, combining forces to censor populist and patriots and gun groups and veteran groups and Christian organizations and pro-life groups, President Trump gets an F-. So you add that to his A+ total, it takes it down to an A-, because at that grade of standing up for the First Amendment, President Trump has an F. You know, if I had the multimedia here tonight, anybody can pull it up. You all saw it, or most of you did, watching on the internet. 6 months before the election, 4 months before the election, a few months, it was before the election, probably 4 or 5 months before, we all remember, they were saying, it's illegal to steal Hillary's emails. And Trump goes, she said she lost them years ago in congressional hearings. I don't care if it's a fat guy in his mother's basement who's naked doing it, or whether it's the Russians. It isn't about who has them. The emails are illegal. So whether it's the Russians or a fat guy in your basement or Julian Assange that has those emails. Release those emails. And when President Trump signed on that metaphysical dotted line and said, as candidate Trump, months before the election, Julian Assange, if you have him, release him. And Julian Assange wasn't a wimp. Julian Assange pulled the trigger. And he released the criminal activities of the deep state wanting to cause race wars and bio wars and collapses and pure evil. And he did a hero's work. And instead of being carried down Main Street in New York City in a ticker tape parade for delivering the shot down the Death Star reactor shaft, Julian Assange has spent years and years and years and years in solitary confinement where he's a gibbering person that can't even hardly talk at these hearings, and President Trump sits there on the sidelines. God has protected President Trump because he's honorable and cares about America and has strength. But in the final equation, if he doesn't get Julian Assange out of prison and continues along with this fake extradition, then President Trump has joined all those cowardly globalists in the swamp and makes me want to throw up. Does that mean I'm going to support Hillary? We know she's getting ready to broker convention. Hell no! But still, it takes a great record that President Trump's engaged in and absolutely tarnishes it. And that's what we're talking about. And then you take Roger Stone. He didn't talk to WikiLeaks. Everybody else did. It's just like InfoWars. We're the black sheep. He wouldn't give us the time of day. But he did talk to a representative of them. He could go, Julian Assange, on CNN, MSNBC, ABC 5 years ago, 4 years ago. He was their darling back then. But as soon as he supported Trump, he was the devil. But Roger Stone's been convicted by a kangaroo jury, 3.5 years in prison for doing absolutely nothing. And I believe President Trump will pardon Roger Stone. But quite frankly, Roger deserves that pardon, but Julian Assange needs that relief anymore. Because you can't give the order that I'm going to get elected president and we're going to fight the corruption and release those emails and have that degenerate evil, the Satanism, the pedophilia, the Jeffrey Epstein, the race war planning, all of that come out. And then let that man rot in jail behind bars. It's why we're here at this emergency First Amendment and Crisis Summit. It's why we're here in D.C. It's why I'll be at CPAC, peacefully and lovingly confronting them with the facts. It's why I'm only here doing it, being persecuted daily. And that's not that I'm a victim. It's positive to have evil attacking you. Just like World War II, they didn't have radar, at least over Germany or over Italy. They had it in England areas. But you didn't know where to go, but where the flak was, where you were being attacked, is where you needed to go drop your bombs. And so I actually thank the globalists for their attacks. I don't just say that as a turn of phrase. I do. Every time I'm attacked, I turn towards that attack, and I put my head down and go into it, because that is where the daggers of truth will go into their livers and their hearts and their kidneys and their spine. It's in that place of their fear, when they attack me, that I know I've been given the guidance of where to strike. And so instead of being cowards and slaves, I say we fight and we take action now today. Let's go ahead and bring up Tom Pepper to
follow up on Alex Jones, as you might imagine. But Alex is going to be speaking again later tonight. We've got a bunch of great speakers coming up. I know the traffic's been miserable. I know bad things are happening out in the city of D.C. But what else is new in this part of the world, I suppose? So I just want to go over everybody again. Everybody, we're working on getting everyone here, but it's been a great turnout so far. Thanks to everybody for coming out. Thank you for supporting National File. I want to say thank you to our sponsors who made this possible. Of course, Band.video, everyone else involved. If you're watching this at home, make sure to go to Band.video. Later on, we're going to have a representative from, among many others, Bill Binney, with some massive exclusive news that's going to come out right here during this event tonight. You do not want to miss that. We'll have Nick Fuentes, we'll have Owen Schroyer, Gavin McGinnis, Alex will be speaking again, Enrique Tarrio, the chairman of the Proud Boys. All of these people have been banned at insane levels for virtually no reason. Every last one of these people, they simply speak their mind, and they're usually right. Some people, like Alex Jones here, has a track record better than the U.S. government, the New York Times, and yet they still get kicked off. It happens each and every day. It's a big part of what National File is about.
But we're still here in defiance of that!
So, I can't talk to Alex Jones, you can't.
Oh, stop that. That's Emperor Palpatine.
So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to have a lot of fun. I want to invite everybody tomorrow night as well. We'll be right outside of CPAC at the Sunset Room in National Harbor. Everybody here is invited. It's another free event. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to get there from CPAC than it is here.
By the way, I'm going to say that. The reason I sponsored this event is I wanted to meet the people that are in defiance of tyranny in the D.C. area. Because the need it's beautiful. This is the heart of the resistance right here, buddy.
Thank you, Alex. I mean, this is the guy, and I'm going to get Patrick Alley up here in the next few minutes, but this is the guy who was the flagship for being banned. I had a Facebook employee who formerly worked for Hillary Clinton, who formerly worked for the Clinton Global Initiative, who formerly worked for Hillary Clinton before that, tell me, you're not allowed to say anything nice about Alex Jones on Facebook. The only way you can say something about Alex Jones is if you say, Frogman bad. That's just how it is on Facebook. I mean, nobody ever heard of anything like this. You can't
explain that. They get on the phone and tell you.
They did.
And once you agree to that, they get your soul.
So, I thought, as a journalist, let's find out about this. Let's see this new ban of Alex Jones. He's already been banned once, but we banned him again somehow. Let's see what exactly that entails. So we started an email chain with this lady who worked for Hillary Clinton, who worked for the Clinton Initiative, who worked for one of Clinton's best friends, who was on the Clinton Initiative before that, now works at Facebook. And we find out, okay, so how does this work? I understand Alex is a bad guy, Alex is evil, Frogman bad, okay. What does that look like? Are you allowed to go on the Alex Jones show? Well, yes, but only if you don't just sit there and agree with him. You can't okay the bad things he says. All right? Now, what if you want to post a link to Alex Jones' website, InfoWars.com, on Facebook? What happens then? Oh, that's going to be banned. Anything with Alex Jones' face on it, the only way you can post that is if he is explicitly condemned. Which, of course, then the loophole is to say Frogman bad on anything.
They condemn me, I love it!
And here he is, condemned. It's been almost 3 years now since you were supposedly wiped off the face of the earth. And people are streaming in the door. They're fighting DC traffic. We've got tons of people watching in super secret streams nobody's supposed to know about online. I hereby disavow Alex Jones. There we go, now we're safe.
Alex Jones is bad.
Alex Jones is bad. He's a bad man. Frogman bad. Bad man. So anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. Everyone make sure to stay tuned. We're going to have some fantastic speakers. Get something to eat, get something to drink. I want to introduce Patrick Alley. He's the senior reporter at National File. He is the guy who exposed blackface baby killer Ralph Northam about a year ago. It's one of the big is exposing what CPS is doing to our children. In places like California, Child Protective Services is being used as a weapon by the left, allegedly by Paul Pelosi Jr., the son of Nancy Pelosi. And Patrick may tell you a little bit about that, but I think he wants to stick on happier topics tonight. So without any further ado, Patrick, get up here. Woo!
This guy, come on. He's not disavowable. My name is Patrick Alley, and I'm better than Jim Acosta in every way. We have some breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Fashion mogul Peter Nygaard, a friend of Robert De Niro, Punchy, as our president calls him, has resigned just now after 10 women say they were raped at his estate in the Bahamas, which sparked an FBI raid on his Manhattan office. He says it's a sinister plot cooked up by his Bahama Island rival, hedge fund oligarch Louis Bacon. Well, the media is going to have to spirit cook up a good excuse for this one. It is ironic, I believe, in a dark way, that they're sending my good friend Roger Stone to prison, and Julian Assange is being persecuted after WikiLeaks busted Tony Podesta, who had the pedo art, inviting his brother John Podesta to a satanic spirit cooking session. And that is really the thing, more than anything, that sparked all of this censorship, and you gotta stop the people and the disinformation and shut them up, and they're gonna start the boogaloo, everything that we've been seeing. And Hillary Clinton has really been on the forefront of this. And when she went after one of my heroes, Alex Jones, I didn't care for that very much. And it makes me wonder, man, who pissed in their adrenochrome? I'll tell you, they're drinking something, those elites. Did you see Harvey Weinstein can walk again? It's a miracle. Hallelujah, Harvey. Meanwhile, Oprah, Ted Turner, George Soros, and Bill Gates have been meeting in New York City near the United Nations, and they call themselves the Good Club. Because that's how you know they're good. They call themselves the Good Club. They're almost as intelligent as the intelligence community, these people. See, they're philanthropists, like Oprah's buddy John of God, who is running child sex slave farms and selling babies on the black markets. That's right, human farms, the latest in globalist luxury. Do you even farm humans, bro? The elites own you, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to make that very clear, unless we do something about it. You call your family grandma and grandpa, dad and mom, brother and sister, and unborn baby on the way. They call you prescription drug consumer, mortgage payer, necessary second income earner, loaded student loan debt, vaccine getter, and abortion. That's their family values. Society is not going in the right direction, I think we can all agree. I oftentimes wonder, as our president talks about Generals Patton and MacArthur, what would it be like if they were still alive here today and we had to brief them on what was happening in the country? Generals, it's worse out here than you even know. The communists have seized our media, financial institutions, and college campuses. They've divided our people with identity politics. They've torn down our historical monuments. They've made white men hate themselves. And I don't even want to tell you what they've done to our Olympic hero, Bruce Jenner. By the way, this speech is dedicated to, it was self-inflicted. I don't want to think about it. Lovely lady, though, according to our media. By the way, this speech is dedicated to Brigadier General Kazimierz Pulaski from Poland, the good Poles who fought with the American Revolutionary troops, got killed at Savannah, and buried at sea in 1779 at age 31. And now he is the horseback statue over in Freedom Plaza, where I just was. So please press F for Brigadier General Pulaski. I've often thought that Patrick Henry was right and the Articles of Confederation were just fine. And we've been going downhill ever since. Really, we've been going downhill ever since Eve with the whole Apple business, because Adam just had a scent for her. No Eden girls. This guy, he's killing it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, he's like the Justin Bieber of craziness. It's great. But we live in clown times. People can't see what is right in front of their own faces. We're discussing tax rates and Medicare plans. Meanwhile, our entire society has become an Aleister Crowley magic trick that culminates with the elites blasting off to a Mars colony where they leave us here to fight off their killer combat robots. You'd think that would be getting more coverage. But thanks to the efforts of some concerned citizens peacefully expressing their point of view, I'm happy to announce that the Drag Queen Story Hour, where the transvestites interact with the little kids at the public school, the Drag Queen Story Hour, I'm proud to announce, at the Clinton Elementary School in Columbus, Ohio, has been canceled. Yeah! I called up the office lady, and she was so sweet, and I said, is the event canceled? And she said, yes. And I said, why? And she went, because of haters.
Yeah, I'll be one.
Good word, haters. Thanks to my friends Roger Stone and brave whistleblower Frank Perlato, Nexium leaders Keith Raniere and Claire Bronfman are getting sentenced in April after they were busted running a Satanism-inspired child sex slave ring over the U.S. southern border, gaming the immigration system with fake visas and fake marriages. And it turns out that Claire Bronfman's father, Edgar Bronfman, was Jeffrey Epstein's mentor and client dating back to the 1970s. And Jeffrey Epstein, who was allegedly a Mossad agent handled by Ghislaine Maxwell, and Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew is a top Middle East official in Hillary Clinton's State Department who spent time in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And it makes us ask ourselves, where in the world is Ghislaine Maxwell? She's like a human trafficking Carmen Sandiego. Her father, Robert Maxwell, who is business partners with the Bronfman family, bankrolled Mitt Romney's career at Bain Capital. So no wonder Willard Romney invested in Stericycle, the longtime Planned Parenthood fetus disposal company. This was a good business for him. Just like Nancy Pelosi's son Paul and his business associates' blood diamond mining scam in the Central African Republic, where 1.5 million black children face starvation today due to the blood mining conflict that our Democrat elites have been cooking up in that country for years. That Paul Pelosi Jr. associate, head of the World Sports Alliance scam Asa St. Clair, is now on house arrest, awaiting trial for wire fraud for a cryptocurrency scam, thanks to Attorney General William Barr.
So they're starting to get rolled up.
We can only hope. And now a recent Child Protective Services employee, hopefully tonight. This is phase one. This is phase one.
Seriously.
Who's getting arrested?
I'd lock him up.
Tell us what phase 2 is.
Phase 2 is Mitt Romney going to jail, baby. He should. He was human trafficking baby parts, human fetus parts, through Stericycle. He was the big investor. Well, and now a recent Child Protective Services employee in Pennsylvania has been charged for human trafficking, showing what I've been talking about for the last few months, and the Daily Beast called me a liar, which is that Child Protective Services and the foster care industry are running a human trafficking operation all over the United States. So now a Child Protective Services employee in Pennsylvania has been charged for human trafficking.
Yeah, about time.
About time. Well, we know what Bernie Sanders is saying when he talks about universal child care from ages 0 to 4. We know what Joe Biden means when he says he's going to send more social workers into homes to help parents raise their kids. We know what Hillary Clinton means when she said it takes a village to raise a child. It's the philosophy that Clinton administration official and Hillary mentor Mary Jo Bain laid out in the 70s when she said the only way to ensure equality for children is to take them away from their parents and raise them communally. That's the ideology at work here. The globalist elites own you, in their mind, from your social security number to your future microchip in the finger, and they think they can rent you out. But I'm not going to go along with that. Nationalfile.com is not going to go along with that. Alex Jones is not going to go along with that. And here tonight we can form a new NATO meme defense treaty pact with all of these good people. We like to practice mean more peace through strength, but if you mess with any of us, you can get clowned on pretty hard, as Jim Acosta's finding out. And I want to say nothing against Amy Klobuchar. Sorry, Amy Klobuchar, but I'm voting for President Donald Trump. Without further ado, please welcome the great Millie Weaver.
The reporter, journalist, and protest interviewer extraordinaire.
Yes.
You know, I come into contact oftentimes with a lot of liberals out there who are angry, spewing ignorance, and the main reason they're doing that is because they simply are uneducated and haven't been shown the truth yet. Once upon a time, Millie Weaver, believe it or not, was a Democrat. I'm sorry. It was when I was young and dumb and naive and I didn't know how the world worked. And quite honestly, in school, run by liberals predominantly, your teachers told you, if you care about poor people, you'll vote Democrat. They indoctrinate us from a young age. Why? Well, a lot of the Democrat unions have their hands in the education system. That's why we're seeing many of these college students being indoctrinated to want socialism and communism in this day and age. It's a real problem. The number one problem here is that more people like Alex Jones, more people on the internet that are the Alex Jones types, the Cassandra Fairbanks, the Laura Loomers out there, the Milo Yiannopoulos, they're being taken off of social media because they are red-pilling and waking up those young people. So how did I get woken up? Who woke me up? This man sitting here. Media. And ever since then, I have been working hard to expose the truth and get the truth out there. Because we can't allow this to continue, and next thing you know, we are going to have socialism in this country. We are going to have our Second Amendment rights taken away. We're going to have our First Amendment taken away as well. And we're seeing that when we have these Democrat politicians like Andrew Yang pushing to have a news ombudsman to police the press. We hear that more and more today. Democrats wanting to police the press, to put you in real life jail, not just social media jail when you say something they don't like. You'll be put in real jail. So this is what we're up against. What do? How do we fight back against this when we are being picked off one by one? It's like the frog in the kettle analogy, where they're boiling us slowly, picking us off, hoping that the rest of us will just become silent and stop speaking the controversial issues that need to be addressed. We can't stand by when someone like Julian Assange is now facing years and years and years in prison, who he has done so much for the honesty and for this country in general. His exposing all of these crimes on WikiLeaks should be pardoned, and I really hope that President Trump will pardon Julian Assange. Julian Assange being in prison right now and being made as this example where if you speak out, if you show the truth, this is what will happen to you, is the most dangerous thing about the whole situation. You know, recently, during the Kentucky election, a whistleblower came forward to me with tons and tons of documents evidencing election meddling. We had data logs, audit logs. We had pictures that it looked like somebody from inside the company that actually ran the voting machines. They were trying to come forward with this information. The same, get this, the same company that was running the electronic voting machines in Kentucky was also the same company providing the software for the county recorder's office in Kentucky, which checked the voting results from that. So where's the checks and balance there? It was complete corruption. It was a racket. It was stolen from Bevin. Bevin didn't he conceded, but he didn't challenge it as much as he should have. Why? Because everyone's concerned about political correctness. We live in an age of political correctness where we don't go with the truth, we go with what's politically correct. I went forward, I pushed it, I told everyone what was going on, but some of that information we couldn't release. Because in doing so, we would have been releasing information that could potentially put us in prison, just like Julian Assange. And how many journalists out there are sitting on information that they would love to release, but they can't? But those who were brave, like Julian Assange, those who were brave, I mean, even Chelsea Manning, I mean, Bradley Manning, whatever you want to call him, those people that were brave, look what's happening to them. So, like I said, I pray for Julian Assange. I hope that he is pardoned, and that's why I'm here today, to stand with journalists out there that want the truth to be exposed and that want to have protections for the press, not more limitations like these Democrats want to put on us. If you want to support free press in this country, continue to support journalists out there that are telling the truth. Because the broadcast media out there is not telling it to you. And we saw that with James O'Keefe, his recent expose on ABC, and how they're talking about how simply, oh, this is all just, we're doing it for ratings, we want to create problems, we just want to attack Trump. I mean, the commercial industries out there, they have their own interests, and it's not the truth. And it's certainly not informing the American public about it. Okay? So thank you so much. I appreciate everyone out here for coming out here, because it means a lot to see so many great American patriots out there like yourselves, and I just want you guys to give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for showing
Lady Weaver is proof that conservatives are way better looking than liberals. I've seen watched Billy's work grow and evolve throughout the many years. One of the great collaborations was helping her get Rainbow Snatch and birth that into being. So if you've seen her Rainbow Snatch videos, they're off the hook. All right, our next speaker is a America First Republican. He's also an author and a reporter. He's been on InfoWars a few times on all the shows. We do 10 hours a day live, by the way, starting at 8 a.m. with David Knight, 11, Alex Jones, and then there's usually that fourth hour, which can be a number of different people. And then Owen Schroyer brings it up in the end up until 6 o'clock at night. Every day we do that. And then we do Alex Jones on usually Saturday and Sunday. He keeps us busy. The man won't stop working because he cares about this country. Let's bring it up and give a warm welcome for Peter Diabrowska. How's it going, everybody?
Yeah. Thanks for being here. I definitely want to thank National File for putting this together, as well as Alex Jones. Similar to Billy Weaver, Alex Jones had a huge part in waking me up and turning me into a political person, which I wasn't for most of my life before a few years ago, and it's been a wild journey since then. So, in case you don't know me, I'm a reporter, political operative. I'm the guy who went on Tucker Carlson and went real dumped on Conservative Inc. Subsequently, got booted off the ballot in a congressional race because the GOP and the state board elections were not happy with me. So that was kind of a bummer, but I'm here to continue to purvey the message that I did on Tucker Carlson, which I think is very important. So the biggest issue that we face in the Conservative Party, or the Republican Party, I should say, is that we don't have any real thinking people. There are no purveyors of actual ideas in the Conservative Party. Does anybody actually think in this room that Rick Wilson or Bill Kristol or Matt Schlapp really represents what conservatism is, our ideas? Because I don't. We have a
Now they're globalist show, you know, man.
We have a common denominator in America. We have a punditry class that is absolutely mediocre. It has never had an original thought in its life. Consequently, what the conservative movement is lacking are new ideas. Ideas for the 21st century for conservatism, not Cold War, Republican versus Democrat ideas. So the GOP, which should be called the GDP, because that's all it cares about, not ordinary Americans, the people they claim to represent, simply reacts to whatever the left is doing. It doesn't put forth any new ideas and then fight for those new ideas. It just scolds and lectures and says, hey, we probably shouldn't do that. That's not a good idea. The perfect example is socialism, the great boogeyman, right? The only thing the Republican Party does is when the left elects a far left socialist congresswoman or puts up a socialist for president, is say, socialism is bad. And it's like, well, what are you accomplishing, right? And then the National Review writes a think piece on how socialism is bad. The Daily Wire writes a think piece on how socialism is bad. Whatever dumb news website Bill Kristol started writes a think piece about how socialism is bad. And then they all go on Twitter and circle up with people who only follow them and whom they only follow, right? And they talk about how socialism is bad. And it's like, what are we actually accomplishing here? We're not doing anything. We're simply reacting to what the left has to say. And we're not putting forth any new America First ideas for the 21st century. All of our esteemed thinkers then go to college campuses, and this is my favorite charade they do. And during the Q&A at their events, people like Charlie Kirk will destroy the 19-year-old feminist lesbian with blue hair and claim that as like this gigantic win for conservatism. It's a sad and pathetic shtick. It's been done over and over and over again by people who work in politics for a living against kids who are just developing political ideologies. It's overplayed and it's not, frankly, worth the time anymore. This is what passes for our intellectual discourse in 2020, and it's not getting us anywhere. It's awful. So go to CPAC, which I'm sure most of you are going to do this week, and you're going to see that the main theme of the conference is that socialism is bad and capitalism is good. But that's not really the main issue that we face, is it? The main issue that we face, that anybody who's actually thinking or actually using their minds, is mass migration. And I'm talking legal and illegal immigration when I say mass migration. That is the biggest problem facing America by far. Now, at the risk of giving these people too much credit, Matt Schlapp and Ben Shapiro and Rick Wilson and Bill Kristol likely understand that the biggest threat that we face is mass immigration. Consider this for a minute. 75% of immigrants who vote for Democrats. So, when Texas goes blue, and when Arizona goes blue, and when North Carolina goes blue, and when Ohio goes blue, and Pennsylvania, and Florida, and so on and so forth, mass legal immigration will be the cause of that. Yet nobody is talking about it. So really, whatever issues they are going to talk about at CPAC this week, which is mostly going to be socialism bad, capitalism good, they don't really matter, do they? Right? All that matters is that in 20 years from now, and probably less, we are going to be totally non-existent as a party because we will have been replaced by foreigners who vote against our interests. Yet, if you look at the CPAC lineup, there's not one person there who is a serious commentator on immigration. I wonder why that might be. So, if you don't like socialism, too bad, because you're going to get it. Here are some facts that I want to talk about that our esteemed conservative thought leaders never talk about. Nonetheless, these facts do not care about Ben Shapiro's feelings, though I believe he is upset about them. So, do you want to keep your guns in America? I do. But if you do, I'm sorry, because 77% of Asians, according to Pew Research, which is like the gold standard of research, believe in gun control. A full 70% of Hispanics believe in gun control. I want to keep your guns away too. Those two groups are the largest groups of people that will bring into this country by far en masse. It's not even close. Do you guys enjoy the First Amendment? I mean, that's why we're all here today. Unfortunately, I can't help you because according to Cato, 72% of Hispanics, A, believe that hate speech exists, which is stupid in itself, and 2, believe that hate speech is an actual act of violence. What do you do with acts of violence? You make it illegal, right? You get thrown in jail. The force of the government will be brought against you for hate speech when we are replaced by foreigners, which is what has happened. 62% of Hispanics actually admitted to not respecting others' rights. So, I'm looking forward to the new America. Now, the GOP the GOP establishment won't discuss mass migration for the obvious reason, right, which is money. Their business interests and corporate donors make big bucks off the cheap labor racket. Matt Schlapp is the perfect example of this, literally. So Matt Schlapp owns a lobbying firm. It's called Cove Strategies. It made $1.3 million in 2018 during the era of President Trump, which is when we're supposed to be ending mass migration to the United States. One of Matt Schlapp's biggest clients of his lobbying firm is an organization called the Seasonal Employment Alliance. It's a group that's dedicated to increasing the number of H-2B low-skilled visas to the United States, through which foreigners are taking jobs from working-class Americans, from teenagers during the summer, from ordinary Americans who may not have bought into the doctrine of going to college. Michelle Malkin, who spoke at CPAC last year, exposed Matt Schlapp's H-2B racket in her book, Open Borders, Inc. Subsequently, she was not invited to speak at CPAC this year. So look, I've done a lot of bitching so far, but if nobody else is going to actually think about or present or discuss any 21st century conservative ideas, then I think it's incumbent upon us to do that. And so I have some thoughts about some of the issues that we should actually be talking about. The first one, if you guys are familiar with me, you know this is my big issue, is an immigration moratorium. We have to implement a total... No net migration, zero net migration to the United States every year.
Eisenhower did it, we can't do it.
Precisely, and for half of the 20th century, we had an immigration moratorium in this country, right? But, I mean, as actually, this is a good point, as early as, or as late as, I guess I should say, 2003, Tom Tancredo in the House proposed a bill for an immigration moratorium. Nobody called him a white nationalist because the media wasn't insane back then. It is now. It wasn't as insane as it is now. So, look, if we were to implement an immigration moratorium, that would immediately halt demographic changes that the GOP is hell-bent on allowing to kill them, right? It would also help working-class Americans who are not at full employment, but Congress is clamoring for more H-2B visas. That doesn't make any sense. We've long confused a labor shortage with a tightening of the labor market. So we do have a tightening of the labor market. We do not have a labor shortage. It is total nonsense. So whenever you see that pushed by politicians, look at the agenda behind it. Americans, and this is the really sort of disappointing part, increasingly Americans with college degrees, Americans looking for high-skilled jobs, particularly in the tech industry, are seeing themselves be replaced with foreigners as well. Walgreens just reportedly laid off 900 IT workers. Who do you think are going to be replaced with? Low-skilled labor from places like India and China, where people will work for longer hours and for less money. This is what's happening to kids who go get college degrees, which brings me to my next point, and last, which is that we have to talk about student debt in this country. We have to, as conservatives, it is incumbent upon us. So, corporate billionaires are multi-million-dollar lobbyists to set policies in America, and one of those policies is the continued debt of American students. I'm not calling for the taxpayers to bear this burden. They've got enough on their plate. But the bottom line of student loans is this: student loans are a fraud when we are importing of the borrower. They're also a fraud because one side bears all the risk and the other side is guaranteed all the all of the reward. Excuse me. I need to find fraud. I can't. Not to mention, it's a predatory lending scheme. It pales in comparison to what happened in 2008, the housing crisis. American kids are propagandized for 18 years in government schools by the government itself to say college is the end-all be-all. You have to go to college. If you do not go to college, you will not be successful. You will stay dumb and unenlightened like your parents are who live back home, and it is absolutely.
Go.
I'm almost done, I promise.
You're good. I'm just gonna kick us out here and tell me how much you're kicking ass, man. I love you. I know the show. You're awesome.
As conservatives, and then I'm done. Pronatal policies, student debt, canceling that is one of them, by the way. Actually, dismantling the administrative state would be another, by remote work nationalism, send all the people home from Washington, D.C., let them work from home, and ending the forever wars in the Middle East, obviously. Tired of paying for these. What's the objective? How long are we going to be there? And how much is it going to cost?
Return to the Constitution.
Peter Brosky. against leftists, the Democrats stem off the top and control them as a permanent underclass. We love people from India, Mexico, Eastern Europe, wherever, but they're being used as a tool to destroy the republic, and so we have a right. Water is a wonderful thing, but if a dam breaks at the pleasure town, it's a bad thing. And so we love our fellow humans, we want a brilliant future, but he's right. The globalists are using uncontrolled immigration as a weapon, as a giant sucking sound, like the late great patriot from Texas, Ross Perot, said, to lower our wages, and we see it as a weapon, and we resist it! Is amazing. She's so smart, she's bubbly, she's on fire, and she's running against Nancy Pelosi!
He's so fantastic, and he speaks the truth. So give it up for him. And that's why they hate him so much, because he speaks the truth, and he is bold and courageous. And that's exactly more of what we need right now, going into 2020. So give it up for Alex, first of all. I'm running against Nancy Pelosi. And the reason why is because, well, first of all, when you hear the damn words coming out of her mouth, and you hear, should she even be called Speaker of the House if she can't coherently speak? Right, it's garbage. But when you hear her words and when you see her actions, how could you not be so passionate? How could you not be so angry that you want to fight against her? Right? It's so wrong, and it's so disgraceful, and it's so destructive to America. So that's why I'm running against her. And I didn't really have a formal speech planned tonight because I want to speak from the heart. Today is about free speech and about our right to protect it. One of the huge the things that I'm championing so much in my platform is our free speech and protecting our free speech. That is what's needed right now. Because our free speech, especially for conservatives, are under attack. Hugely. People are banned. People are censored. I'm shadow banned. I can barely even run for Congress without being shadow banned. Because why? They're so afraid of hearing our voice. They're so afraid of hearing our thoughts. Because they're right. Our thoughts, not to say who's right or who's wrong, but I don't want to be treated like an infant. I don't want to be treated like they need to tell me who I should listen to and who I shouldn't. And what speech is considered hate speech, who I should vote for, who I should like or who I shouldn't. That is treating me like an infant. And I don't want that. I want to be treated like an adult. But the left doesn't want that. They want to destroy us.
Yes.
So I'm here to protect our free speech, and I promise, if elected into Congress, I will always protect our free speech. 100%. Our Constitution is a beautiful thing, and it works. We just need to enforce it.
It's violating the norm. It needs to be reinstated because they violated our president's constitutional rights. And nobody's even going to jail for it. The whole thing's broken.
Well, exactly, and that's why. What's happening to McCabe? What's happening to all these people that have betrayed our Constitution?
You support Assange.
So here's what I did in response to that. Nancy Pelosi decided to rip up the president's State of the Union speech.
You support Julian Assange.
Yes. Of course. bitch move of hers, excuse my language, allowed to have free speech, is I flew a plane around San Francisco that said Pelosi for prison. Because we need to have her accountable for her crimes against America. And it is, thank you, it's the most liberal district of America, and people said, oh no, don't fly a plane around that says Pelosi for prison. That's not something you should do.
Yeah!
But I said, let's do it! Yes, because, thank you. And guess what? I flew it again last Sunday. And guess what? I'm going to fly it again next Sunday. And guess what? Not only, of course, I'm getting some booze and maybe some Molotov cocktails thrown at me, but I'm getting a lot of hurrahs. I'm getting a lot of people that said, thank God someone has the balls to call out Nancy Pelosi in her district, which is
California.
Well, yes, this is our free speech, and it will not be impinged. And if I have to fly a banner in the air that's 80 foot by 20 foot that says Pelosi for prison, and we need to call about her crimes against America, we need to do that because she's not being called out, she's being protected. This needs to stop.
The crypt keeper's going down.
She's going down, baby, and I'm going to take her down. Yes, the other thing I've been doing the last 4 days is driving around an enormous mobile billboard truck in San Francisco that has Nancy Pelosi's failures on one side with homelessness and images and videos of veterans dying on the streets, needles and drugs and feces on the streets, which is totally unacceptable. Her ripping up the State of the Union speech. It's going around. And then I've got President Trump's successes on the other side of the truck. And guess what? People are loving it. If she's going to keep ignoring the problems, baby, I'm going to go right to her and bring the problems right to her. Because she's not going to ignore this anymore. And this is our right to free speech. We need to enforce that right. Thank you. So I will be continuing to drive that truck around San Francisco, pushing her failures right in front of her, pushing Kate Steinle right in front of her, and of course there should never be another Kate Steinle. Sanctuary cities are a mess. They're unconstitutional. We need to get rid of them. Woo! Yes. As I'm driving through the streets with this truck, by the way, I get people saying, Nazi! Nazi! You know, go to a concentration. You want people in concentration camp, you're a fascist. How is driving around a truck that is blasting proud to be an American, how is that a fascist thing to do?
That's what fascists say.
That's what fascists say. But the more that I play this, the more that people are receptive. And I know there are so many conservatives that are closeted. And not only conservatives, guys, but there are common sense Democrats. There are common sense independents who are so damn tired of all of this censorship and real fascism, some from the left, that they are hungry for someone to be brave and bold enough to come out and say, you have permission to come out and be a conservative. You have permission to come out and say, I love God, family, and country. Because that's what we need more of in America. That saw my Pelosi for prison banner in the air in San Francisco. I'm just going to play a quick clip, and this is what he said.
I just wanted to say thank you and say fuck you. I can't believe that we have fascists who are trying to run for office. Report to jail immediately. If you keep on going where you're going, maybe you'll end up in a death camp.
Make your racist America great again, make your rapist American. So these are the people that we're up against, you guys. We are at war, and we need to fight. We need to fight. These are the real fascists. We are the representatives of free speech, and I will promise you, if I get elected, I will always protect our free speech and our constitutional rights.
Because
I
we
love
fight.
America. Thank you so much. I love you all.
All right, Enrique Cario is an awesome dude. He's been on my show many times. He's about to come up here. And then we've got Lee Stranahan, another amazing investigative journalist. And Bill Binney's representative. I want to get Bill Binney here, former head of the NSA, exposing all this. The Owen Schroyer, Nick Fuentes, Gavin McGinnis is back here. That awesome dude, so amazing. Nick Stranahan. And then yours truly in Q&A. We're running out of Q&A time. But hey, we're here. Enrique, get up here and kick our ass. We got some secret missions with this guy right now. Oh yeah, get ready. Boom.
How's it going, guys? For those who don't know, my name's Enrique Tario. I'm the Florida State Director for Latinos for Trump. I'm the chairman of this organization that you guys have probably heard of. It's called the Proud Boys. And I am also a congressional candidate in Florida's 27th congressional district. I'm not a man of many words, but I'm a person that likes action.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I've been banned off of every platform you can think of.
They're scared of you.
They are scared of me. They're scared of you guys. Just a couple miles away from here, I'm banned from going to CPAC. I can't go in there. I'm banned off of, here we go, I got a list. I actually have to scroll through it. So, I've been banned off Facebook 19 times, Instagram 4 times, Twitter 19 times, PayPal, Airbnb.
That's because you're the fucking man.
Coinbase, Uber Eats, Chase Bank. Yeah, I gotta drive to get food. I've also been banned off of something that hadn't happened at the time, and something that's actually really scary. Something that's really scary, and that's my bank account, right? I was banned off my bank account. I've been banned off of processors. I've been banned off of platforms that you guys have never heard of. But the banking system and the financial system is where the big problem is. Because at first they want to silence you, right? That's phase 1. Phase 2, they go for your money. Phase 3, they go for your house. I've had my guys, we have about 17,000 members worldwide. I've had, that I can count, I've had about 190 guys lose their jobs, lose their homes, or lose their marriage.
Bullshit.
Welcome to Technocracy!
Got globalist on your face. Am I not the word?
No, it's working. I just need to come off the mic. But I didn't just sit there every time that I got banned and turn into a little fetus and start crying about it. I took action every time. When I got banned off my bank account, we started investigating. I went on the road for 3 months with a hidden camera. I worked with Project Veritas, and we figured out that these banking systems are shutting down accounts to conservatives. And the reason why I'm standing here today to talk to you guys is, how many of you guys actually know that there's a problem with censorship?
Yeah. It's the central problem.
And we keep talking about the problem. We need to start finding solutions. We need to be people of action. We need to get out there. We need to protest. Do things like Alex Jones does. He goes out there. He went in front of this judge today, right? Which was the ballsiest move I've seen anybody do.
right? Because you know what the last stage is? The last stage is a gulag. And they're doing that to Roger Stone right now. It's not about silencing us. It's not about taking our finances. It's about putting us in jail. They want us hung and they want us dead.
They want us dead. They'll die first.
Amen to that. That's why I'm running for Congress. I might not be the best politician, but I'm the best person for the job. Because I represent the little guy. I represent the working class.
Because you don't back down.
And I don't back down. I don't back down. Portland told me, the Portland mayor told me, do not come to Portland. You know what I did? Not only did I bring myself, but I brought 500 of my best friends to Portland. Our appearance alone for 15 minutes cost the city $5.5 million because that radical mayor wants to continue on this path of destruction for our country.
What you call this blood?
This isn't about right or left. This is about wrong or right. This is about evil. Evil wants to go ahead and take over this country. We call it socialism, we call it communism, it's Satanism, it's evil, and it's here. It's here. And to be honest, it's probably in this room. There's probably somebody infiltrated in here that wants to screw up what we have today. Ladies and gentlemen, the buck ends here. We need to start organizing. We need to get the fuck off the couch. Again, I tell you, we know the problem. We need solutions. Put me in Congress on November 3rd, and I promise you guys that I will be a piece of human dynamite that gets lobbed into that building.
Already laid out. 1776 worldwide is the answer, and we're going to do it. The worse things get, the more people are understanding. All right. Lee Stranahan is an investigative journalist. He's worked for all the big leftist publications that are out there. He's worked for Breitbart. He's worked for them all, and he's up here to break down what's really happening today. We're so glad that Lee Stranahan had a Bill Denny representative, Owen Schreier, Nick Fuentes, Gavin McGinnis, and your Q&A to be here. So, even though he's got in the hospital the other day, he's still here. We really appreciate it.
I see, this is the most pandering thing I've ever done in my life. Ready? I think I see InfoWars. I know, complete pandering. But here's what we gotta do. I'm going to give you a history lesson, a quiz, and a chance to show that you've got a pair. I cannot say a pair of what, because there's no gender. There's a whole thing. Pronouns. But do you have a pair of something? Do you get big yell?
Do you have a will?
Yeah! Okay. Do you have a pair? Yeah! Okay, so someone, they descended. Something, okay. So, here is the answer to the quiz. Every answer, and I want to hear you say this, is going to be Eric Charmella. Repeat after me. Eric Charmella. That's good. Okay, every answer that I'm going to give you here, in the quiz portion, the answer is
Eric
Charmella. There you go. Now, on July 20th, forgive me? I gotta get my notes here, hang on. I don't want to screw you up. By the way, everything I'm going to tell you, you can look up on your They're afraid that everything I'm going to tell you is absolutely true, and you can look it up on your phone. Is that crazy? So take notes if you want. Okay. On July 26, 1947, Harry S. Truman signs the National Security Act, creating the Central Intelligence Agency. Now, what's the name, here's the quiz, what's the name of the CIA analyst whose name a Supreme Court justice would not say on the Senate floor? Let's move ahead to the Eisenhower administration. Dwight D. Eisenhower resigns in the speech he gives on January 17th, 1961. He talks about something called the military-industrial complex, and he warns that it will grow. Here's the quiz part. What is the name of the CIA analyst whose name a sitting U.S. senator was told by Fox News not to say on the air? October 3rd, 1963, Arthur Kroc, writing in the New York Times, is discussing the interagency feud that's going on between the Central Intelligence Agency. And he is quoted as saying, an administration official said in that article that you can look up, October 3rd, 1961, Arthur Kroc, K-R-O-C-K, go look it up. He says, if a coup ever happens in the United States, it will come from the Central Intelligence Agency. You with me? Oh, my voice, forgive me. Okay. Now, with that little history lesson in mind, what is the name of the CIA analyst who was working in the White House and was overheard saying 2 weeks after President Trump was elected, discussing his impeachment? November 22nd, 1963, what happens? No. My bad. I said, okay, JFK was assassinated, but okay. CIA had nothing to do with that. So, 1 month after the Kennedy assassination, Harry S. Truman, who created the Central Intelligence Agency, he writes a letter to the Washington Post. 1 month after, this is a letter that he started 3 days after Kennedy was assassinated. In that letter, to the Washington Post, which was only published in the morning edition, not the evening, he says that the Central Intelligence Agency has overgrown its purpose. And the Central Intelligence Agency should be scaled back to its original purpose. Deleted.
Close bad.
Okay, now I told you to take notes. Ready? So you know what happened next. Trump's elected, blah, 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 they hate him, no one get rid of him. Okay, so, one final quiz question, ready? And I told you might want to take notes. You know what?
You know what? I was just told that these streams might get banned for the words you were saying.
Really?
They might ban, but they won't ban them on band.video, and that's where we're going to put this up later tonight.
Over 1,000 videos. One video.
The judge in the Stone Show trial says don't say the names of the jurors and know the federal laws will be public because she rigged them all. The Democratic Party operatives and they're panicking right now, and we put out the names of the jurors, and now she's because her threats were called. We called them, and now that Amy Berman Jackson burns in hell.
Let me just say this, as a speaker, it is hard to follow Alex Jones. But I see a young man over there who might, we'll see. It's Nick over there. Have you seen Nick? He's very controversial. One final quiz question, then I'm off, Alex. Sorry, I'm going long. Okay. Who is the CIA analyst who worked closely with Victoria Nuland, whose husband, Robert Kagan, is a fellow at the Brookings Institution, which was run for 20 years by Strobe Talbot. Strobe Talbot, Bill Clinton's roommate at Oxford, whose brother-in-law, Cody Scherer, and his other brother-in-law, Derek Scherer, are at the center of the 2016 election interference. That's right, Derek. You all passed. Congratulations.
I'm getting my exercise here, okay? I'm getting my exercise. All right, we're having a good night tonight. Defiance of their tyranny. It's amazing. Thanks for coming out. I love it. Let's go ahead and bring out former head of the NSA's Technical Operations Unit, frequent guest of the show, Bill Benny. We wanted him to come. He couldn't come. He's working on a big project. So we said, have Tommy Collins, my partner, on, who's working with me on major operations. So I've never met Tommy Collins, but I'm excited to have them on. So Tommy, come on up here. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Hey guys, it is my privilege and honor to be here in behalf of Bill. And we are working on some major developments I'm going to share with you at the end. You guys, this will be the first place we are ever revealing this information. But Bill, if you guys don't know who he is, Bill Binney, and most people do, but I'll give you a little rundown. Bill Binney is the man that's responsible for building out about 2/3 of the modern day NSA. And he left in the early 2000s, and when he left there, they're still using the, I shouldn't say here, they're still using the stuff that he had originally developed. It's powerful. Bill has been continuing to work on things. His stuff was so innovative at that time, they've never been able to get better. So that's pretty powerful. And so we have been working on this Russian collusion stuff back in 2018, early in 18. We had servers set up in the United States and all over Europe. And what happened at that particular time is we've seen this stuff come out on the Guccifer 2 data, right? Are you guys familiar with that? This is what Rosenstein tried to build his case on, this bogus Guccifer 2 data. And so what happened is we set up servers in the US, and we set up servers across the Europe, and they decided they would see how fast they could get this stuff to go across the web. And at the end of the day, from a data point in New Jersey to a data point in Britain was the fastest they could get. And it was about 25% of the published speed. So you guys can go to americarestored.us and see all of this. We have more, so basically there's no possible way it could have been a Russian hack. So we were able to get this information to Rudy Giuliani while President Trump was in Helsinki. So do you guys remember when the president was in Helsinki and he was going to go over there and call Putin out originally, and he got out of there and he's like, well, wait a minute, Putin said he didn't do it. Well, we had sent the forensic evidence, which is only published at americarestored.us. You guys can find it there. Amazing stuff. I mean, it's basically forensic evidence proving the DNC was not hacked by Russia. Their 25% of the speed was as fast as we could get. So with that said, it gets even better. So what ends up happening is we recognize at the end there's a fat file format, FAT, that's published at WikiLeaks. So when you see that stuff, it's powerful because that's a storage drive, guys. So most of us already know what happened. But this is forensic evidence proving that the DNC was not hacked by Russia. It gets better. So in the Stone and Flynn cases, we have Bill being called as an expert witness because if there was no Russian collusion, there was absolutely no way that they should have been able to get a warrant on these guys because there was no crime. Right? Guess what happened? The judge threw it out. Didn't even hear the arguments. So powerful stuff happening behind the scenes, guys. We are digging deep. We're finding out what's going on. We know there was no Russian collusion. You hear now that they're coming back with this same narrative basically saying that, we better watch out, we're going to be hacked by the Russians again when it never happened in the first place. By the way, backing up a little bit, simultaneously, while President Trump was in Helsinki, Rosenstein is coming out with his big indictment on the Russians for spies for spying, right? So, and it's basically built on this Lucifer 2 data that's a complete fraud. And one more powerful thing I want to say about that data is Bill's a cryptographer. And so when Bill began to look at this data, he basically looks at the data and he sees that in the milliseconds that these files can merge together perfectly. So they screwed with the data. The data basically is 2 reports that when Bill looks at the milliseconds, it merges into 1 report. And you guys can actually see that forensic evidence at americarestored.us. So there is no possible way that there was a Russian hack. There's forensic evidence proving that there wasn't. And then you've got the FAT file, which basically is published at WikiLeaks and we see that it's actually a storage device. That's what that means. And so I've got interviews, Bill's explaining this a little bit more in detail, but it's stuff you guys need to see.
No Russian hack.
There was no Russian hack. It's forensic evidence proving there was no hack of the DNC, proving there was no crime committed, proving that the Stone and Flynn should have never had warrants pulled on them, and the judges wouldn't even hear it.
Was a hoax.
Nobody believes it anyway.
It was a really, really big hoax. By the way, you guys, Bill is the Vice President of America Restored, and I want to go back just a little bit about Bill. This is so important, and then I'm going to lead up to our stuff. Okay, so this is the thing about Bill. People say, well, he left in the 2000s, his technology is outdated. He's mentioned in the movie 3 times, Snowden, the movie 3 times. We know from the movie Snowden that Bill Binney's technology is still being used in the modern day NSA to this day.
No Russian hack.
So basically what that means, you guys, it's really important that you catch this. I need everyone in this room to catch what I'm saying, right? This Bill's technology is still being used in the NSA today, but they didn't want to implement the best part of it, the thin thread program, because they would have busted. They would have been able to prevent the intelligence agencies from looking in on anything. That's what Bill's stuff did. It picked needles out of haystack. It was proven that Bill would have actually discovered 9/11 before it happened. Bill's forte is bulk data. His forte is bulk data, meaning not forte, unparalleled, nothing out there like it. It's never been reinvented. The NSA has never been able to get better. Bill's the bomb. He has technology that's never been recreated, right? Until now. You guys, we are right now, Bill up to this date has never ever even asked for money for a speaking engagement because he never wanted anyone to ever accuse him of going for the money.
He never wrote a book.
Yeah, he never wrote a book. He never got money on the movie. Nothing. You know what? So listen to this, you guys. That's why Bill's on board with a non-for-profit. Because this is what we're going to do. We're going to build out Bill's technology right now. And we need every freedom-loving American to get on board. We're going to build out a program. Go to americarestored.us. Join the you guys, check this out. This is so powerful. We're going to build out a system that can clean up the voter rolls in 1 minute. We can basically do it. We can basically do that very, very, very quickly.
We love you. Great job. Think about that William Binney, who's admittedly in U.S. history, George Washington was great, good codes. William Binney is like a savant of codes and computers, and he created the whole modern NSA. And then when he exposed the corruption, they went after him and tried to kill him. He just make a big deal about it. They poisoned him at the Senate lunch area. He lost his legs. He's a real patriot. We really appreciate him. That's what people have gone through to bring you this level of information. We're talking about 3D imaging, digital quantum computing mapping, and literally being able to judge pre-crime. The system didn't want to use that. I'm not even sure I'm for that, actually. But they wanted it all to continue. They used the computers to continue the crime and to continue the criminality and then spout everybody else. It's really amazing stuff. William Benny, the representative, we really appreciate you being here. God bless you. All right. I had an hour booked of Q&A, because that's always my favorite part, but it's not like 10 minutes now if you started late, folks. It's still getting there. And a lot of folks watching on the streams, be sure to spread those links. QMet, that's how we get this out. But I want to bring up Owen Schroyer. Going back like 4.5 years ago, for like a year and a half, I'd say, man, who's this great college student going out and exposing all these cucks and leftists? And then I met him at the RNC 4+ years ago in Ohio. He was a great guy. We hired him. Now he hosts a syndicated radio show weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. that reaches millions of people now every single day. Owen Schroyer, come up here. And just remember, we're winning, the globalists are losing, and Judge Amy Berman Jackson is getting ready for a prison cell. Victory! Believe me, we're winning.
See some of these guys come up here with like binders and stuff. I wrote on a receipt. I had about 5 minutes to write some things down on the receipt. Probably won't even get to half of it. And hearing some of the other great people talk today, I also took some notes, but I was told I'd be paid by Russia before I started. I also made a request to have Space Jam playing for my walk-up song, so don't know why that didn't happen. Anyway, you couldn't, the kazoos? I don't know, Alex, did you shut that down? Is that what happened?
You see how they change your stuff into Russia? That's all over.
Well, I still haven't received my rubles, so, and he walks away. There's all the proof you needed. Okay. I actually ran into a lot of you earlier today at CPAC, and it's really cool whenever we make it out to the events like this, and we're able to host events like this, because I meet people from all over the country, even all over the world sometimes. And I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I was born and raised, obviously from Austin, Texas now. So came all the way here from Texas. Where did some of you guys come from, huh? What are some other states that are represented here? Minnesota? Dank from Minnesota. Where else we got here? South Carolina? Florida? Virginia? Georgia? Anyone from the West Coast? California? Baltimore, so you see? New York, so you see? People come from all over as a part of this movement. And no matter when or where, it's always someone from somewhere else. All over America, people are part of this movement.
Justice for the crotch grabber.
Actually, yeah, she got sentenced. People can't believe that, right? Where's my Me Too moment? Come on. Man. Don't take notes on a receipt. It's very lightweight and it flies away. So luckily we have a whole thing of stickers here. So I'm just going to use this. How about that? We'll see if that works right there. You know, I may be alone in this, but I don't think so. I think everybody in the room would agree with what I'm about to say right now. Ever since I was young and could really comprehend the system that we live in, or the matrix as we might call it, something felt corrupt about it. And it was obvious. And we couldn't quite put our finger on it, we couldn't quite put words to it, but we could feel it, we could sense it. And I always felt even when I was young, I always felt like I would be part of some revolution. I really did. And I never knew what it would look like. I never knew where it would be. I never knew that, but I'm looking at it right here, right now, tonight. And we're living it. And it's funny too, because obviously we're hearing from a lot of people that have been censored tonight. We're going to hear from Gavin McGinnis later. I mean, there's so many great people out here. Nick Fuentes is going to be here. I actually, I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's true, but someone from TPUSA came up to me today and said, "Be wary of Nick Fuentes." And I just said, you know, man, they told me to be weary of Alex Jones too, but he keeps being proven right, so I'm just not quite feeling that. And there was one other thing that I always noticed too, and that was that the establishment likes to pretend to be big. The establishment likes to pretend to be all-powerful. But are they really? Do people really buy the Hollywood BS? Do people really buy the mainstream media BS? I don't think so, because if that was so, Trump would not be president, and you would not be here today. And Bryson Gray would not have a top album on iTunes Music, but he does. And so that's just proof to me that we are the new establishment. We are the new pop culture. We are the new culture winning the war. And anything that Hollywood and mainstream news wants to do is really just a counterbalance, a counteract of that. And so just remember that. And one question that I always get asked is, what is it like to work for InfoWars? Well, you may be getting a hint of that tonight. You can see Pete Dubraska's speech. I don't know where Pete is, but he kind of got an idea of what it's like to host the War Room sometimes. Maybe some others too. And when you work for InfoWars, you're always in a rush to the next assignment. And you're just trying to squeeze any time out of the day. Like I said, I have a receipt that I wrote my speech on today. I'm very proud of this, obviously. But another indication is, so I was live all day from CPAC. I saw a lot of you there. I didn't even have time to eat or shower. I go back to my hotel, I change, and I show up today and I realize I forgot my belt. So please nobody tell Roger Stone. Really, I don't really like planned speaking events because I'd rather speak from the heart, and I feel like there's some sort of pressure to prepare something when you come up here, but that's why I like InfoWars so much, and there's no other platform like it. And Alex has left the building. It's kind of like Austin Powers, like, where's my father? Like, oh, Alex, he left me. No, but seriously, I can't thank Alex enough for building the platform, because there is no other platform that would allow me to do what I do. I read news all day, I aggregate news all day, the clock turns to 3, and I just go live. No script, no agenda, no plan, and there's no other platform that happens. And it's amazing that we can take that formula and still be the leading edge in news. That really is an amazing thing. So, in conclusion, like I said, I'm not a big person for speeches here, and I know that people want to do a Q&A, so I'm not going to waste much of your time. Nick Fuentes is coming up next. There's Alex. Hey, Alex, thanks for missing my speech, man. Really meant a lot.
Hey, get ready.
Really meant a lot, man.
What meant a lot?
No, seriously, Alex, I was thanking you, and I want to make sure you're here to introduce Nick Fuentes. But you guys really are the revolution. You really are.
Before we do Nick Fuentes, we got Ivan Rankin, Green Beret, Patriot, and
This is what it's like to work in InfoWars, ladies and gentlemen. Put him up.
no big deal. And we got General Flynn's son here tonight.
Can I just get a round of applause for Alex Jones for building InfoWars?
Ivan, Patriot, U.S. Army officer, lawyer, Defense Intelligence Agency formerly. Let's get General Flynn's son up here. Get him on. Keep saying, go ahead, you're on there.
I said no. All right, so who's out here? Who's motivated today? Who's ready to take down the left? I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I didn't have any prepared remarks other than, here's the deal. My name's Ivan Lakeland. You have just come up here. No. My name is Ivan, and you just colluded. What's up, Ivan? No, so it's a great night tonight. Welcome to the DMV, Alex, and the rest of the InfoWars that are out here. Again, who here is from Virginia? Yeah, that's where I'm from. So, I don't have anything really to say other than 2020, we have two themes. One, we have two themes that we need to focus on in 2020. The first thing is to uncover everybody involved in Spygate. Everyone involved in Spygate. And oh, by the way, I think, did anybody read the IG report? Does anyone remember the SSA-1, the Supervisory Special Agent number 1? What was that person's name? No, it's not Eric Cherimella. That's one of the whistleblowers. Joseph, take notes, people. Make sure this goes out. Joe Pientka. Well, why is he important? Joe Pientka, I think it was on August 17th of 2016. Again, August 17th of 2016 was sent by supposedly Andrew McCabe to go into the Trump campaign in New York while General Flynn was in there to get a baseline reading of General Flynn. Not to do a counterintelligence briefing warning about potential Russian and other influence of the campaign, but no, to listen in and get a baseline reading of General Flynn. To me, that kind of sounds like a word that rhymes with pie and begins with S. Spying on the Trump campaign, right? Joe Pientka. I read a recent report that he was just recently transferred to the field office in San Francisco. Who's from San Francisco? Who's running for Congress in San Francisco? Who's running for Congress in San Francisco? Nancy Pelosi? You think maybe there was something there? Sending him over to Nancy Pelosi's district? I don't know, maybe. Let's look into it. Who is running in this audience for that seat? Deanna? Get your juices flowing. Get your creative juices flowing. So number one, Spygate. Number two, Big Tech Takedown. That's 2020. How are we going to do that? Well, self-plug. I'm part of the company called Yippee. It's a search engine. Take a look. Anybody use it? Yippee.com. Safe, secure search. Big Tech.
Hey, I like General Flynn's son. You get up here and talk. Good job.
All right. Ivan Raiklen on Twitter.
Big troublemaker right here. All right. America is awake. That's what's happening now. Get ready for it. I know it was written. Get General Flynn's son. That's what they're doing. Hold on. God bless you, brother. Hey! Cell phones for your speak right now.
I came here tonight because I wanted to meet Alex. I wanted to meet number you, and the vibe so far has just been nothing but support. I can tell you that I kind of describe what's been going on with my family and everything else that's happened with all this Russiagate shit, and it's like kind of like this long boxing match. We're kind of in the 15th round now. We feel like things are kind of winding down, and it's like you take so many gut punches and things happen, and you just kind of become numb to everything. But we have an absolute bulldog in our corner right now, and her name is Sidney Powell, and she, we wish, hindsight is what it is, but would it have been great for her to be, our lawyer from the beginning? Yes, but, things happen and, you make, certain decisions. But at the end of the day.
Lay out what happened, tell them.
Yeah, I mean.
Start from the beginning.
Well, kind of going off with what Ivan said, I mean, Crossfire Hurricane did not begin July 31st. It just didn't. We know that my father was set up from as early as 2015, maybe even before that. He was absolutely targeted because of his loud voice against the Obama administration. I'll never forget a conversation that he and I had whenever he retired from the DIA. He said, look, we talked about getting into business together, but then he said, look, I'm tired of listening to the Obama administration lie to the American public about the ISIS threat. And that's really when we got on a roll in the media, and he went on to various talk shows and instantly became a target because he was out there basically calling out Obama and all these other deep state officials that were just out there. What's up? Oh yeah. So anyways, it's been a long journey. It's so complex what's going on with this case right now from December 2015, and then all of a sudden we're at the RNC convention. That happened, and then August 10th was really when the 3 individuals were opened up. Crossfire Hurricane. August 16th was when the deep state decided to open up an investigation on General Flynn. The very next day, the August 17th date that Ivan Raglan mentioned, was when they decided to send this FBI agent in and essentially spy. Essentially get that baseline reading on my father for whatever reason. The biggest reason they went after him was because of that one picture of him sitting at a table with Putin when he and I traveled to Moscow in December 2015. And what's never been reported by the media, which to this day is unfathomable, was we absolutely briefed the DIA the day before we left for the trip and 2 weeks after we got back from the trip. Perfectly sanctioned, told them everything that as far as what we're going to do. Everything that he talked about while we were in Russia, is available to the public. So that was it. There was absolutely no reason why these guys, could even open up a CIA investigation on it, other than the fact that he didn't speak, and didn't live up to the status quo in terms of the establishment that is, in DC. So. From August to December, there was obviously a lot of talk about him being the vice president, and then we get into December, going into January, and obviously I think most people know about the January 24th interview that where the 2 agents were sent in the White House by the assholes that are Comey and McCabe. I'm personally sick and tired of reading Comey's tweets and John Brennan for that matter. You look at what these guys say, and it's like these guys are the heads of some of the most powerful agencies in the world, and it's just so mind-boggling to me that these guys were running our most secret organizations, if you will. And so, from the end of January of 2017 to December 1st of 2017, when he was forced to plead guilty. It's like people ask me all the time, why did he plead guilty? Think about it. I can tell you unequivocally that I was absolutely threatened. I was absolutely threatened with being indicted, and I'm sure I'm sure everybody knows who Sean Hannity is. He's been a loud voice for us, but he absolutely is correct that I had a father that absolutely fell on the sword to protect me from going through something that I would have had to put my then 4-month-old and my wife through. Okay, and look, I'm not up here looking for sympathy. I'm just letting you know that this is the truth. This is what happened. My mother's not guilty of anything. I think everybody here knows that. And last thing I'll say is that the story is so complex.
I want you to keep going for another 20 minutes. We got plenty of time. We got like an hour of question and answer. Talk about your father as a patriot and what you guys went through, and the vindication now that the whole lie is coming down, and Roger Stone, everything. Just tell them what happened. Tell them in 5 minutes what happened, what you guys went through as American patriots.
Yeah. As far as what you can picture, just a regular, American, military family who essentially wasn't. We weren't wealthy people to begin with. We had, my father and I had a private business, after we left the DIA, but we weren't raking in, millions of dollars, and then, all of a sudden this stuff, kind of came down with having to, hire lawyers and.
Why did they go after your father? Talk about why they targeted him.
Yeah, well, again,
Why did they go after your father?
They went out, the deep state went out with my father because he was outspoken on a number of things. The main thing was Obama's signature foreign policy, which was the Iran deal. The Iran deal, and I'm not an expert on Iran, but I can tell you that the Iran deal was a big thing that he was, that he was highly against, and there's a lot of people. Major critic. But the other part of it is he was willing to call out, how much the deep state and specifically, CIA and FBI had become very, very political organizations, and that's still. You see what's going on in the news, and you see what's happening with all these partisans that we just saw with this impeachment process, with Adam Schiff, all these just political bureaucrats that got up in front of national television, and it's as clear as day just listening to these people. How in the tank they are for the left, and as far as I can say that my father has wanted to speak out about this stuff ever since day one, but for obvious reasons, he hasn't been able to. But again, I mentioned Sidney Powell and how she's been a big advocate and obviously very, 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 very outspoken for us, and that's
After all the persecution you've gone through to come here and speak on these live feeds out here, but let's get back to the beginning as soon as we have left. I appreciate you coming here today, the courage to do it. I know you and your family persecuted, I've been persecuted, we know what it's like. We get persecuted because we support America. We realize that persecution is actually a blessing. And we don't see ourselves as victims. Some people listen to this guy are saying, it's his dad, just like Roger Stone, and just like some other people, they try to put his father in prison. They try to hold years in prison and bankrupting them to lie about President Trump and lie about the populist election we had. So I hear a lot of talk. I love you guys. Just respect. Everybody just stop talking for 1 second. Just 1 second. 1 second. Just 1 second in your lives. His father wanted to serve America and try to defend our republic. And because he did that, they targeted him because he wanted to put in the Trump administration patriots that would promote freedom worldwide. They were scared of the army that George Washington founded 245 years ago, finally getting control of the government again from these communists and these globalists. And then they launched every attack they had. And now, 4 years later, all their designs have failed. But the people like General Flynn are such humble men who just defend their country. They're not like me, a wicked devil. They don't see all the angles. And now that they've been victorious, they are silent in the face of their victory. We have discredited Obama. We have discredited Hillary. We have restored the Republic. We have defeated the Chi-Coms. America has had a great victory. But America doesn't have a media to tell you the victory you've had. So General Flynn faces fake sentencing. And I say, like I've told Roger Stone, call their bluff. Because we've done nothing wrong. We're good people. So General Flynn's son, God bless you. By CNN and MSNBC and NBC, and you're evil. You get attacked when you're good.
is that we still have a fight in front of us. We have a couple of motions out there right now that we're still waiting on this Judge Evan Sullivan to either grant or deny. There's kind of a battle of.
But their hoax is collapsing.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about that. I mean, I think again, I mentioned the kind of the whole boxing round analogy. I mean, to me, it feels like we're we're at the end of this. I can just tell you right now that. I mean, something has got to happen before this election in November. I mean, something has to happen. I'm sick and tired of reading about the potential fixes and what we're going to do here and there. I want to see people held accountable. I'm tired. Again, I'm tired of these guys running their mouths on Twitter, running their mouths on social media. I want to see. Let's just see one big name arrested. Just one of them. Just one of them, okay? Because look, no behavior is not going to change if some, we throw around that word accountability, and it's like it just doesn't feel like accountability is happening right now. And trust me, I'm just as frustrated, if not more, than the next person. And all we can do is continue to do things like this, speak out and let it be known that you're just as pissed off as I am. That hey, Bill Barr, John Durham, I know you're out there, but let us know what the hell you're doing. Like give us something. That's it.
Go after them for civil rights violations.
I'd love to be able to answer that, but I'm going to defer all questions like that to Cindy Powell. I mean, Cindy Powell, if you ever want to contact her, you can always reach their website, but she's probably one of the most open, transparent people that you ever meet, and she's family to us now, and I'm telling you, I mean, just kind of stay tuned, because there's certain things that can't be made public that will be made public, and it's just, I hate to even say stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we're going to win.
Let me say this. By the way, Michael Flynn Jr. came here humbly today to expose the persecution his father, a noble army officer, has gone through defending this republic and trying to secure our future. And so, come back over here. You're a very humble person, just like your father. You don't have much shortcomings. And I'm here to tell you, we need to stop being humble about what's happened. Your dad's been a patriot his whole life. He stood up to the globalists. He tried to give Trump good advice. He was persecuted. He's a hero. And we need to celebrate our heroes. People that got Congressional Medal of Honors, they're wonderful. People that got Silver Stars, Bronze Stars, they're amazing. We love them. But this is the real fight for America right now. And you're humble about this. But you came up here tonight, I know, under major pressure and persecution, to tell the truth. So in closing, tell the people watching out there on the internet, everybody here in person, why you decided to come out and speak up for your father tonight. I think it's because you know the tide has turned. The hoax is broken. We're Americans. We're not questioning. We believe in America. Why don't you come out tonight?
I came up here with Ivan Reagan. I don't know where he's at. He's around here somewhere. Ivan's always dragging, pulling me, in five different directions. We're at CPAC before, and I'll be there in the next couple of days. I came here because I knew some of the InfoWars guys were going to be here, especially Alex Jones. We've actually never met in person, so it's certainly a great honor to meet Alex Jones. I know, and obviously followed your story, and I certainly appreciate everything that you've been through. I can't imagine what the deplatforming has done with some of these just ridiculous tech companies. But at the end of the day, you're still here, you're still standing, you're still you're still doing your thing, and that's important. And trust me, what I will say, because I have this conversation, and this is the last thing I'll say. I had this conversation with my father all the time. I said, look, your time is not done with America. You know that once this is all said and done, that you are going to be pulled back into the scene in one way, shape, or form. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to speak for my father, in that regard, but I can tell you that his time is not done. He will get his ass back out there and
That's right. General Flynn bet on America. 3+ years ago and trying to put the White House stocked with patriots. He was attacked as enemy number one. And now, 4 years later, we are turning the tide. His son is here with us tonight. This is a beautiful time. God bless That's why we came to DC to confront the virus. Well, it's hard to follow this. Big Fuentes, who challenged the Republican censors and the neocons on the Chi-Com jet.
Thank you for a very warm introduction. Am I good on the mic, by the way? I know there were some issues earlier with
You're live as hell.
All right. Excellent. Well, we're fired up. We are fired up. We're fired up. Yes. Well, it is great to be here. This has been a very fun event. You know, I've been to CPAC for 2 years now. I went to CPAC in 2018 and 2019. 2019, I wasn't supposed to be there. I actually got kicked out. They tried to kick me out, if you remember last year. And I have to say, this is way more fun than CPAC. Does anybody rather be at CPAC than here? I don't think so. But first of all, I just want to say thanks to the National File, everybody with the National File for hosting this, and a big thanks, of course, to InfoWars and Alex Jones for having us all here, and Alex Jones is high energy. And I have to say, it was very actually surreal to meet Alex Jones. It's the first time I ever met him. And I actually grew up watching Alex Jones, listening to his podcast. Back when I was a wagey and I was working in a warehouse, I would turn on the Alex Jones show for 3 hours, and it would help me get through the day. So it's sort of like when Kanye West met Jay-Z, is how I would compare it. Seeing Alex Jones tonight. But it is very exciting. You know, I look at this room here. We've got Alex, we've got Owen, we've got Gavin, we've got a lot of big names. And I think to myself, like, why haven't we done this sooner? Why haven't we gotten all the people that have been banned, all the people that have been censored, blacklisted, and everything? It's about time that we got all of them in one room fighting for the same thing, for the same thing. I also want to say I am grateful that Owen Schroyer kind of broke the ice with the receipt situation. I saw Pete get up here earlier with like a packet typed out like 5 pages. I haven't written that much since I was in high school. I wrote out like a little note card. That's how we do it. We do it live and do it off the cuff. But tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about censorship. This is, after all, the emergency First Amendment Summit. We have rallied and gathered here sort of last minute to discuss what's happening. And as you may know, this is something that has touched me very recently because I was banned off of YouTube on Valentine's Day. Yeah, you may remember this. Still a little bit sore, it still hurts a little bit. I mean, we all knew it was coming for years, but when it finally hits you, I was just talking to Owen and some of the guys from InfoWars, and they said, you know, you're finally part of the banned club, banned from social media. Oh, great. Awesome. I'm glad to be a part of that, right? But it does show that you're doing something right. So over the years, I've been banned off of many things. I'm now banned off of Stripe, PayPal, Twitch, Streamlabs, YouTube. I think there's maybe a few other things out there. I'm banned from CPAC. So you can rest assured that I have a lot of credentials when it comes to being a dissident. I think it was said earlier, you only get attacked, you only get censored or banned when you're saying the right things and when you're actually a good person. It's actually something interesting. Okay, quiet in the room there. It's interesting, for a long time, there is maybe a silver lining to being banned from YouTube. For the longest time, people used to tell me that I was controlled opposition because I wasn't banned from YouTube. They would say, why are you on YouTube still? Doesn't that show that you're still part of the system? But thankfully, now I can tell you, being banned off of YouTube, no, I can't confirm I'm not a part of the system. But I wanted to talk a little bit about free speech and the censorship situation. And I'm thinking about what to say. We've been at this now for what, 4 or 5 years. We've been talking about the situation on Twitter, the situation on YouTube, the censorship of conservatives, right-wing people. This has been going on for years. And what can be said that hasn't already been said about censorship? That it's wrong, it's against free speech, that we can't just go and create our own Twitter, we can't go and create our own YouTube. There has been so much said about this, but I think a contribution to the conversation that I can make, which is relevant to what I've been up to lately with the Groyper Wars and Charlie Kirk, is a little bit of a new angle here. So thank you. Can we get a shout out for the Groypers? The Groypers are taking over this whole week. This is not CPAC, it's GPAC. It is Groyper Pack. We've got this and AFPAC on Friday. But the angle I wanted to come at it tonight with that in mind is that it's not just the left that is in favor of censorship. We know this. Nobody talks about it. But it's actually the right, too, that is in favor of censorship when you're looking at the establishment, when you're looking at the mainstream. And I like to think about the left back in like the 1960s or the 1970s. We know that at one point in time, the left was in favor of free speech. We remember during the anti-war Vietnam protests, we remember that Berkeley was supposedly the birthplace of free speech on the college campus. And now they've turned against free speech. Why is that? We all know why that is. Because free speech is a tool that benefits dissidents. Now that the left is in power, they have no need for free speech. Free speech is the means through which dissidents challenge their institutional power in the establishment. They were outside of power and they supported free speech. Now they are inside in power and they are against free speech. And a similar thing, actually, has happened on the right. I remember when I was in high school and I got into the conservative movement, I regret to say that I was a big fan of Ben Shapiro, Prager University. I was a big fan of all those characters, and they were in favor of free speech. I remember they were fighting on the front lines, fighting against Antifa, fighting against protesters, disruption, and so on. And we've seen something very curious happen, which is that since Trump got elected, and since conservatives have built up their institutional support, Daily Wire, for example, got a little bit of support from billionaires known as the Wilkes brothers, and Charlie Kirk got a $10 million check from Foster Friess. Now that they have money, now that they have, in other words, institutional power, suddenly all these establishment conservatives don't really have a need for free speech. And what exactly do I mean by that? Well, there's a very fine line between the conservatives that we see today, like Alex Jones, like Gavin, like myself, who have been censored, and all the conservatives that you see readily able to use YouTube, Twitter, and they're on Fox News. I've compiled actually some examples, some hypocrisies that you see which are unexplainable if you're only thinking about censorship in the paradigm of it's a left versus right issue. The New York Times on November 23rd, 2017 called Ben Shapiro a controversial gladiator in the battle of ideas. Now, I think gladiators are supposed to be tall. Gladiators are supposed to be large. They're fighters. They are pugnacious. They will meet you in the arena and fight you. Alex Jones is a gladiator. We all know that, right? We are gladiators in the battle of ideas. Ben Shapiro is a pot-bellied goblin. And to borrow a phrase, I have to give credit for that one. But yet the New York Times, which is, we know, anti-white, globalist, liberal, the epitome of fake news, they heap praise upon Ben Shapiro. And they say that he is a celebrated gladiator of the conservative battle ideas. Well, why is that? We could go to other examples. The Economist in March 2019, they called Ben Shapiro alt-right. They ran a headline, you may remember this, and they said that Ben Shapiro is this alt-right provocateur, and Ben Shapiro went after them, and he went on Twitter and put them on blast and said, "How dare you? Don't you know that I'm Jewish?" Asked Ben. We all know. All know. Don't you know that as a Jewish man, I'm the #1 target of attacks by the alt-right? But what did The Economist do? The Economist issued a retraction. They changed the headline, and they put out a groveling apology. I'm sorry, Mr. Shapiro, we didn't mean to call you outright. Does this happen with anybody in this room? When they falsely call us, it doesn't happen. When they falsely call us white nationalist, fascist, neo-Nazi, and we get on Twitter and say, well, I'd like to fact check that, we've never said anything like that. Does Jared Holt, Will Sommers, all these characters, did they put up a groveling apology? We're so sorry, Mr. Fuentes. We're so sorry, Mr. Jones. We retract the headline. You're just a good conservative. It never happens. There are many other examples of this. CPAC is a perfect example. CPAC last year was sponsored by Google. Shouldn't that be a red flag to anybody? All these people that get on the stage and talk about the censorship of conservatives on the college campus, the censorship of conservatives on YouTube, even Breitbart. We all heard the clip after the 2016 election when the Google employee said, we're never going to let a Donald Trump election happen again. Well, then why is Google sponsoring CPAC, the event where Trump speaks at? Why were the Heritage Foundation, the American Enterprise Institute, and the Cato Institute present at a Google lobbying conference last month? I also think about even this administration. There's another grand irony. Last year, there was a social media summit at the White House, you may remember. I think some of the people here might have been in attendance. And Donald Trump invited all the influencers who have been censored to the Rose Garden to share their stories and to show support for free speech. But there was actually one notable absence at that conference. Somebody who was invited, but then disinvited. You may remember this. Ben Garrison, who is a great cartoonist, yes. Ben Garrison, who has been censored, was invited to the social media censorship summit where he was apparently supposed to fight against the censorship that he's been a victim of, but he was disinvited. And we all know the reason why. A person by the name of Sheldon Adelson, billionaire funder of the Trump campaign, picked up the red phone to the White House and he said, I don't like the way Sheldon Adelson talks about George Soros. I don't like Ben Garrison. I don't like the way Ben Garrison talks about George Soros. I don't like the way that he talks about all these billionaires. It comes across as hateful, anti-Semitic, something like that. So they promptly disinvited Ben Garrison from the social media summit. And what do we see in every single one of these examples? Whether it's the New York Times praising Ben Shapiro, the Atlantic retracting their headline and issuing apologies, the White House censoring somebody on their social media censorship. What do we see when Google is sponsoring CPAC and the Heritage and AEI and Cato are at the Google conference? It's very simple. It's the same thing that happened to the left. All these right-wing people that say they're against censorship, they're in favor of free speech, that worked 10 years ago when they didn't have this institutional power. But now that they've got the money, and they've got the think tanks, and they've got the NGOs, and all that institutional power on their side, free speech is no longer convenient for them. Now that they are in positions of power, they do not like the free speech that we are offering up as true conservative.
And Nick, you're knocking it out of the park here. I want you to continue. But I totally agree with you that I don't care what somebody says, they have a right to free speech. And what the establishment really fears is power. They fear human action that has that electric spark. You've got that. And they're scared of you. And no matter what they do, they can't suppress you. Because I get on air and I talk about America and freedom and fighting radical Islam. And I see the headlines, Nazi Alex Jones. Because that's all the left's got is to say somebody trying to promote freedom as a Nazi. And the Nazis are a bunch of losers 70-something years ago, got their ass kicked. And so they just keep saying, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi. I'm like, no, I'm an American, I'm a capitalist, I'm a freedom lover, and I'm not gonna bow down to you. And so I think that's why we can talk about it all day, Nick Fuentes, how they do this, but no one buys it anymore. Trump was called an anti-Semite, so was Senator Cruz, by the head of the ADL. They're pro-Israel. I'm not against Israel. They want to use that as a tool of control, and I don't think it has power. And I think you should tell the leftists that their race baiting has no more power. Yeah.
said, it is about control. At the end of the day, now that these establishment conservatives are in power, they are after control of the conversation. And I actually think it's relevant to bring back CPAC a little bit. This is the reason we're all gathered here, is ostensibly for the mass migration of conservatives to DC for CPAC. And what is the theme of CPAC this year? Did anybody get a chance to look at it? Do you know what they're calling this year's CPAC conference?
America versus socialism.
That's right. The theme this year, it's not a parody, not a joke. The theme for them this year is America versus socialism. And to me, that says it all. What they want us to do for the next 50 years is to relitigate the Cold War and fight this argument, America versus socialism. They want control of the dialectic, of the conversation between the two poles. The right is defined by hamburgers, capitalism, and on the other side, socialism. I guess I'll wrap it up here.
No, don't wrap it up. This is a good guy right here. You always say so short, he calls me. So I'm like, I have a polarity complex. But seriously, Nick Fuentes says a lot of things that people agree with. He's popular. So the system wants to ban him like a race car driver that keeps winning races. That's all. This guy's not a racist. He doesn't hate black people or white people or gay people, everybody. He just wants to have his own say. And you know what? I'm a confident man. I say, hey buddy, I say the market ideas, you get to have a run at it. That makes us all stronger. But they call him a white supremacist, all of it is. And then the ADL and Southern Property Law Center fund white supremacist compounds with terrorists with bombs. I say, ready to blow up black communities and create war, but they can't ever find white people to join. That's the good news. The truth is, humanity loves humanity. We want to come together. We want to be strong. We want to build a human future. And people that try to silence speech are the enemy. Because I was smart enough to hear what somebody said. When somebody tells me I'm not supposed to hear what somebody said, that's when I start getting suspicious. So Nick, you're a great speaker. 5 more minutes, give him hell, have the next speaker come.
So true. It's true. I'm like a race car driver, the Groiper War, we keep winning battles. It's absolutely right. But yeah, so to wrap it up a little bit, to get back on this America versus socialism thing, it is about control of the conversation. Too often, we talk about free speech for the sake of free speech itself. You know, we're in favor of free speech. Well, what do you want to say? Doesn't matter. We just want the open marketplace. Free speech matters insofar as we are using it to express ideas that challenge the system. That is the crux of free speech. You see, a lot of people out there that will say free speech, but then when it comes to the ideas that actually challenge the status quo, well then suddenly they don't want to hear it. Suddenly that's outside. We can all agree that's actually not polite, that's actually not civil enough. And so going back to CPAC, it is about controlling that conversation. They do not want free speech to allow other ideas, particularly in the right-wing space, to enter in and challenge the definition of conservatism. Why is it, as an example, that CPAC claims that the theme for this year is America versus socialism? It is because targeting socialism and the Trump administration railing against Venezuela and socialism sucks, is because this is a pretext to defend the interests of the capitalist class, of the firm holders, the elites, the billionaires. We are talking about the Koch brothers. We are talking about Sheldon Adelson. We are talking about billionaires that are responsible for funding the open borders lobby. We are talking about... That's exactly right, exactly right. We are talking about huge titans of industry who are working against the interests of the American people. Why do they say they're against socialism? Because they are funded by these huge billionaires and elites. And when they say they're against socialism, that means open borders for immigration, That means free trade. That means all kinds of loopholes and other things for the big people, for the billionaires, for the people that are making their money off of investments rather than income. That is why they choose to define it in that way. They do not want real conservatives to go into CPAC and make it about America first. They don't want to make it about make America great again and halt the mass immigration. Not just the illegal immigration, but the legal immigration. And they don't want us to do that because, again, the people that are putting up the money for their thing, putting up the money for their conference, are benefiting from their open borders agenda. So, in conclusion,
No, but it's true. It's not that we're against the total population. It's they're being weaponized against us. So he's gone like 3 times longer. So the other's gonna say, I censored Nick Fuentes. I did not. I actually extended him. They're gonna take us out of here in like 30 minutes. We got like 5 more speakers. We just get rid of the whole question and answer conference. But it's true. It's not that anybody's bad. It's that the globalists are weaponizing them. And you're right. Ben Shapiro and all these people are pushed by the system. We're banned by the system. What does that tell you?
it's like a tag team. You tag them in. That's exactly right. It tells you about the system that Ben Shapiro is a part of the system, and we are not. That is why he is celebrated and we are on the outside. He is saying things that are benefiting the elite and not the people, and we are the reverse. And so, in conclusion, you said 30 minutes. I didn't realize we were so pressed here. In conclusion, I'm probably going over, but I wanted to make one last important point to keep in mind for everybody. One last thing. Thesis statement. We as conservatives who are in favor of America first, whatever our differences, we will either hang together or we will most surely hang separately. That's the most important.
Get ready for Gavin, the Patriot McGinnis. You saw him fall down. That's because Obama shot down laser beams. Gavin McGinnis to take over.
He just gets up stronger.
I don't make notes, Mother. Stairs come out of nowhere. I'm nervous. In conclusion, I just want to say that we can't let the Bolsheviks win, because for them, this is about power. It's not about anything else. It's about them winning. And that's why you see Jews going against Israel. That's why you see liberals talking about the Kurds like they matter. They change with the wind because they just want to win. And they don't have anything valid to say.
Because they're losers.
They're losers.
Losers!
Thank you. I thought it was a lot longer than this. I don't know if I can do this. When my notes got muddled up, I ended up at the last page. I'm really sorry about this. Thanks, man.
You need some turbo force?
Round of applause!
Thank you so much.
Yeah!
I can have a turbo force too. Turbo force is totally
Isn't
legal.
it fucked up how they give away their play on a regular basis? Like Katie Turner the other day, she said, what we should do is set up a thing with the FBI where we can somehow get young white men in and then entrap them and then charge them with being domestic terrorists. In other words, they want to create hate where there was none. This whole shit with the base and Adam Waffen, they're all FBI honeypots, it's all lies, because there's a strange desire for the mainstream left to create Nazis on every corner. And sometimes, like with that Katie Tur thing, by the way, her father cut his cock off. Oh! And she's telling us how to live a good life. Okay, gotcha. But they occasionally sort of peek at their hand a little too much, and you go, whoa, you have a king and an ace, what's going on there? Or when Bill Maher said, I kind of want the economy to tank, because that'll make Trump look at it. You go, oh, I see what you're doing there. This has nothing to do with Trump. This has to do with you winning, you fucking Bolshevik cunt. One of the most telling ones I ever saw, they were talking about drag queen story hour in some small town, and the teacher said, the teacher who organized this thing, said, let's be honest, parents often don't know what's best for their kids. The community should decide what's best for their kids. And I went, ooh, I caught you looking. I see what you're really about there. And with free speech, the agenda is clearly, I want to control the story. And when you see people being persecuted, in this day and age, it tends to be, and this might be the Coke talking, because they're charming and funny and gorgeous, like me. We started this club, the Proud Boys, as a fun, silly men's club. It still is. And I think the left saw that as making Trump cool, making conservatism cool, but more importantly, eschewing shame. The entire ethos of the left for, I would say, 20 years has been shame, shame, shame. And when you see young white guys get up in college, they always have the same diatribe. They get up and they go, I just want to say that as an able-bodied, incredibly handsome white male, I'm speaking from a position of privilege, but I just wanted to know, are we allowed bathroom breaks? Fuck you! It's amazing how many white men have come up to me tonight asking for handshakes and selfies. I'm at the point now where I think it takes your soul. I've become an aboriginal. Please stop fucking asking me for these goddamn selfies. What do you do with them? Jerk off? Stop it! We're not friends. So they persecuted that men's club like they persecute all men's clubs, and it's confusing. You know, I always wondered, what's their end game? What is the impetus for all this? And one theory was daddy issues. Brett Kavanaugh looks like my dad. And a lot of this culture, fuck you, Dad. And the way they say, no borders, no walls, no USA at all. It sounds exactly like, I fucking hate it here. Slam of the bedroom door. And you sit there as the father going, I'm getting kind of sick of this. I think you're going to be grounded soon. I think you're going to lose your screen time, mainstream media. I think we're going to replace you, you bratty teenager. But the second layer of that is what my attorney, who's helping me sue the SPLC, calls Bolshevism. They want more power. So when they say, for example, we live in a country where cops shoot blacks for sport. Looky there. We got one trying to buy groceries. Just some dad getting some oranges. What do you think of these? Do you like tangerines? I got one. That's a notch on my belt, boys. Which, it's a funny thing to do to black people, too. Because you're like, if you can control that narrative, black people are like, I can't get tangerines. I'll be assassinated. They're on the grassy knoll. It's like the Beltway sniper. Nice life. I don't think a racist could come up with a better way to torture black people than to convince them that there's just fucking cats. Dad, fatty grows fat. So you wonder why they do that, and why they ignore the fact that in the NYPD over in New York, we've had a suicide a month this year. And no one talks about that. Instead, they have Alicia Keys going, murdered by the police for not having a taillight. What? You mean that Sandra Bland chick who hanged herself? No one went up and went, hey girl, you don't have a taillight on. So why do they create this narrative? They create this narrative for power. So they can say, we need more programs. We need more projects. We need more government control. We need to regulate you more. Parents don't know what's good for the community. De Blasio was saying the other day that kids should be in school until 6:30 p.m. That sounds like a great idea. You can serve them breakfast, you can serve them lunch, you can control their diet, you can control what they hear. That sounds fantastic. Let's do that. But you've done a great job of repairing New York with your 60,000 homeless people. New York right now, you walk down 32nd Street and there's just bums who have a whole area set up. Like a mattress, a side table with a cardboard box, an alarm clock, and they wake up like, oh, God. Oh, it's Wednesday, I gotta get my ashes. The other day I saw a suitcase that had, 900 pounds of garbage in it. Clothes, I guess? What the fuck do they have in there? And it had a sign on it that said, be back in 5 minutes. Oh, okay, I'll wait for our appointment to discuss your severe mental illness and public urination that Bill de Blasio has empowered. We had black supremacists in New Jersey assassinate 2 Jewish people, and New Jersey's solution is to start a task force to tackle white supremacism.
Really?
What the fuck is your problem? Everything that they look for in these mythical Nazis is present in jihadism. We see their homophobia they're looking for, we see the sexism that they so crave, but they don't like that because it doesn't, they want a redneck. They live in some bizarre fantasy world, some shitty movie on Showtime. Can you assholes stop chatting your fucking head off, please? Hey, shit for brains, talking to Nick. Hey, you fucking limey shit for brains. Go to chat, go outside. What are you doing here? It sounds like a swarm of bees nattering over there.
I got said. Shut the fuck up. Listen, this is gold. You guys shut up.
I need a bump now to readjust myself chemically. He's fine, guys. He's fine. What are they, Zoomers? What's that what you call them? In my day, you did that on an AOL chat room. To do it at a public speaking event, for cry-eye. So they create these task forces, and they push this Showtime story. When I did a talk at the Manhattan Republican Club, you probably all know this story. Write about what you know, so I'll just talk about what I know. I do the talk, the Antifa screaming outside. There's some suspicious shit going on, by the way, that night that no one talks about. Like, they were throwing bottles of urine at us, but the bottles of urine were P. Diddy's vodka. And I'm thinking, some rich lawyer who's funded by, I don't know, some globalist company, People for Justice or some shit, said, look, you need projectiles, they need to be about this big, they have to be piss friendly, so go to the liquor store, here's $500. So they went and they bought these bottles that were probably $40-50 each, but they are perfect projectiles. Where'd you get this money from? Where did you get this? Who's organizing this? who has these lawyers that are there instantly? Every time someone from Antifa gets arrested, boom, there's 4 lawyers from the Bronx. Actually, no, one of the guys who was there that night was in Rikers for weekends, and he was there with David Campbell. Do you remember David Campbell? He was that Antifa kid who was screaming, "Fuck you, Nazis!" at Mike Cernovich's Night for Freedom. And then Chelsea, what's her name? I always confuse her with Chelsea Handler. The weird train. Chelsea Manning shows up, says, "We're here at this location." Antifa shows up. Some old Jewish guy is walking out. They're like, "Nazi!" He's like, "I'm just trying to see a show about Trump. I don't know. What are you screaming and yelling and They punch him in the face. He goes into cardiac arrest. They start strangling him. The ambulance takes him away. The cops come. He wrestles with the cops. He ends up in jail with our fellow Proud Boys. And the guy was talking to him. The Proud Boy was talking to the Antifa guy. He goes, "Hey man, what's up? I've been here for a while. I can help you out." Meanwhile, using all this restraint not to rape him. And the guy goes, "Hey," he goes, "I'm kind of Antifa too." And he said, "Oh yeah, I mean, I can't believe I got a year in Rikers just for almost killing a guy and strangling cops. This is such bullshit." The way it works with our group, as you know, fellow Antifa guy, is every time that there's a brawl or a fight or we get in trouble, there's 4 lawyers from the Bronx who just magically appear and work for us pro bono. My buddy was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I know that." And then later he lifted up his arm and he started scratching his Proud Boy tattoo and he goes, "Holy shit, you're one of those fucking Nazis." And he goes, "Yeah, and you're dead. I know everyone here." And he goes, "But they're all black. They must hate you. They're racist." And he goes, "No, they love me. They hate pussies like you." And then he stood up on his bunk and he said, "Hey everyone, this guy's new here. He has 2 holes, one in his mouth and one in his ass. So if any of you guys are horny, this is your man." So I'm hoping David Campbell's having a bad time in Rikers right now. But our guys are going home from my talk to get ambushed by Antifa. Max Hare pulls their masks off. John Kinsman kicks the shit out of them. Someone asked for a fight, and they got it. It was 17 seconds, and these guys are serving prison for 4 years. But what was incredible about this is there was basically 3 main guys that were the perpetrators, and one of them was brown. One of them was Indian. And they wanted to push the white power Nazi thing that is so effective. The social justice warriors are not just at the Huffington Post. They're in the courts, they're judges, they're prosecutors, they're DAs. They've infiltrated the system. So when you go, "I want to fight Antifa, I want to beat up Andy Campbell, Christopher Matthias, Will Summer, Jared Holt," I would love to get them in the ring. But if you get them in the ring on the street, you're going to go up against the same people that threw Roger Stone in prison. You're going up against a jury that thinks that they're watching an episode of Blue Bloods. Hold on. And I thought this was pretty telling at the sentencing for these guys who fought these Antifa dudes. The judge, Mark Dwyer, who had led a Hasidic rabbi, is there any other kind of rabbi? I don't know. He was in, he had served 9 months for raping a boy 8 times. And Mark Dwyer said, "Let's give him a year." The judge said this. And they said, "Well, he's already done 9 months. Okay, so give him 4 more months and then he's free to go." Okay, so raping a kid is like, it's like jaywalking. Don't do it. Don't make it a habit. We all make mistakes. And he said, as he was giving the 4-year sentence, he said, "This kind of fighting in the streets, it's comical. Reminds me of 1930s Europe." So I'm Hitler, because I was doing the talk that night. And don't just take that one sound clip and put it up. And they were my brown shirts marching through the streets. Antifa ambushes them, but the patriots are the guys marching through the streets. And sorry, to get back to the other guy, the 3rd guy who's brown, they go, "We don't want you to go to court with these 2 guys." And We don't want the brown guy to be in court with you. He's a separate trial. They just dropped all the charges on him because they couldn't do the white power thing. And I thought what was amazing about this is when one of the Proud Boys, his wife is black and the kids are black, whenever she was near him, the Daily News would hide their cameras down. They'd point at the ground and make sure they didn't photograph his black wife, because that hurts the story. Now here's the big picture here, and this sort of relates to what Nick was saying. Where the fuck was the conservative media? Where was Breitbart photographing John and his wife? Where was Daily Caller? Where were all these people that we were like, I understand the Daily News is going to hide their cameras, that's what they do. Where was the New York Post lifting up their cameras? At one point, John was saying to the media, get out of the fucking way, I don't do this. Some asshole got down on his knee and shot vertically up. So this becomes, and don't take this out of context, this. They caught him Sieg Heiling. Him telling them to fuck off became like, und von Ivan, what's going? That's a real quote. Und von Ivan, no, I don't know. Schlafen Sie gut und treiben Sie Sus! Sleep well and have nice dreams. That's all I know. In conclusion, and now I'm at the last page. It's disheartening. It's disheartening being deplatformed. It's disheartening seeing all your friends be deplatformed. It's disheartening seeing all these myths perpetrated on social media where they say, they make up stories and you can't get on there, so that's not true. When they make up stats, when you have all this artillery, John Lott's book, More Guns, Less Crime, you want to tell them why they're wrong. They can't do it anymore because the Bolsheviks have accrued this power. It's frustrating and sometimes you think you're losing. And I'm sure they felt this way during the American Revolution. I'm sure they saw the Brits. Actually, in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have done that. Go against England, that's a bit rich. It's sort of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If someone pitched me that as a business idea, 4 mutant Ninja Turtles who live in the subways, and one of them likes pizza, and it's going to be $3 billion and we'll sell it to Disney, I'd go, I'm out. Like Shark Tank. Your story's retarded, you talk like a fag, and for that reason, I'm out. But they did, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of revolutions, and they fought the British. Yeah! And free speech was an integral part of that revolution. They set up newspapers all on the East Coast that had right-left debating back and forth. No one was censored. In fact, the Brits screwed up by saying you should have right-wing newspapers, left-wing newspapers, you should have an open discussion. The American Revolution wasn't really Americans kicking out the British. It was working-class British telling upper-class British to fuck off. Yeah. And they did that with guns and free speech. Why were those amendments, by the way? They should have been in the first draft. What the hell's going on here? Yeah, that's distracting. However, as we learned in that movie Braveheart, starring that notorious anti-Semite Mad Max, when all is said and done after the culture wars, and your grandchildren ask you, what did you do? Oh, I acquiesced. I kissed Conservative Inc.'s ass. I said some speech should be banned. Hate speech should be banned. I kept screaming that I'm not racist. I kept telling everyone I'm not anti-Semitic. I kept talking about Nazis. I tried to get the New York Times. I remember I was at a dinner with National Review once. It was this guy, Andrew McCarthy, wrote a book called Free Speech in Islam. And I just thought, fuck you, Andrew McCarthy. You National Review pussy. You're the guy who got John Derbyshire fired from National Review because he wrote an offensive article on Tacky Man. And you're sitting there with a free speech book. So we go to the Harvard Supper Club, as the elites are wont to do in New York City. And we're sitting there, and they're talking about jihad and ISIS, and what their plan is. Are they trying to take over this area? Are they trying to win hearts and minds? What's the geographical? I go, can I ask something? Why are we talking about a bunch of fucking inbreds? Like they have a plan. Why are we imbuing some sort of a great national patent-like war plan on these people? They're savages. And every eye at the National Review turned to the New York Times woman who was there and went, whoa, look what the catch I did. I do not know what that was about. Oh my God, it's so hot in here. AC, can we get some AC? And I just thought, she's never gonna love you, assholes. So, to quote Mad Max, after all this is said and done, your grandchildren, your children, will ask you, well, where were you in all this? And you'll be able to say, I was banned. I was censored. They couldn't handle what I had to say. They shut me down. They created a false bogeyman to shut me down. They threw my fucking friends in prison because they couldn't handle what we had to say. And what did we do? We stood our ground. Remember the Columbia Catholic schoolboys when they were interviewed? She said, don't you think that's kind of aggressive, standing your ground? Okay, then I'm aggressive. I'm standing my ground. I want to be able to tell my children that I stood up for what is right. I stood up for truth. And I want my grandchildren to have a legacy of truth when they look back. We can't sleep during these culture wars. We have to fight so after the revolution's over we can go, I was on the good side. I was on the side of the patriots. Those were the pussies. Those are the ones that fucked us. So I know it's uncomfortable to say things you're not supposed to say. I know at work everyone is against you, especially if you're in New York City or DC or LA. But get in trouble, get fired, be brave, and never stop fighting.
Gavin McGinnis that drink Budweiser. All right. Well, the reason I'm up here is because Alex Jones has gone to bed. But you guys at least heard a shit ton of Alex Jones throughout the night. And so I don't know how many minutes we have. How many minutes we have left? We're getting 9 minutes. I mean, do we need to do Q&A? Does anybody have a question? Someone's going to turn the mics on. And if the people, actually, if we could get everybody up here who is speaking, you could ask them questions if they're still here. But I want to thank National File for putting this on. Good job. So I'm going to turn on that mic. That mic has a switch on it. You turn that mic on. And I'll go unmute it, and we'll get everybody, we'll ask questions, and we'll go as, oh, wait. All right, Nick Fuentes, get up here. I have a gift for Nick Fuentes. I know he's gonna love this, but I gotta videotape this. It's all right, here we go. All right, Nick, I'm gonna present you this pen. I want you to tell everybody what it says. This is your gift.
Zionism is a badge of honor.
Alright. You like that? He's gonna wear it. Alright, he's gonna it's a badge of honor. Alright. So, alright, is the mic on? I'm gonna go and mute it over here, and then you guys can ask questions. Thank you everybody for coming. This has been a great event. Give yourselves a round of applause real quick. I'm gonna turn on the mics. What's your question? You didn't turn it on, did you? No?
I'm just going to say this. Does the oil look fabulous or not? Look at the pocket square. Look, it matches the tie. And that's all. You look fantastic.
Just don't tell Roger Stone I forgot my belt at home. He'll take me off the best dress list. Do we have the mics working? Are we good? Is it working? There we go. Sweet. All right, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question for Mr. Fuentes. So, as he knows, I asked a question to Conservative Inc. a few months ago and never got an adequate response. So I would like to give Mr. Fuentes, the leader of the America First movement, an opportunity to answer my question adequately. What is the America First position on giving Israel $3.8 billion in aid every year? And how is that in America's interest?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a softball question, but I appreciate it. Hey, Alexander. Epic, by the way, the man who arguably started it all in Colorado. With that question. Well, I mean, it's my opinion that foreign aid is not in America's interest, particularly with Israel. The largesse of the foreign aid just is indefensible and unjustifiable. You could say that foreign aid could be a tool of foreign policy, and in some cases it is, but we have given more aid to them on an annual basis, more than any other country since 1978. And they're a rich country, they're a sophisticated, advanced, developed country. They don't need that money. They don't need to go up every year. And moreover, they get the best and most special provisions out of all the other countries, which I don't want to get into that. We'd be here all night talking about every little piece of it. But so the America First position is no foreign aid, and foreign aid to countries that don't need it.
Thank you.
All these questions are probably good for you anyway, Nick. But can I just give it up one more time for Gavin McInnes? What a great speech. Everything he did all along the world, just amazing. Very well done.
Hey, I'm Jerome Bell, and I'm running for Congress in the 2nd District. First of all, we need to get Donald Trump elected again in the United States. He needs to take over Virginia. I'm taking over Virginia from Democrat Elaine Luria. Okay, I won't say it. I just said POS. I'll be nice to her. Okay, I'll be nice. Hey, to answer your question about foreign aid, zero foreign aid. Zero foreign aid. My immigration policy that I'm going to be running on and that I'm going to sponsor when I get to D.C., okay? So, America First, we're going to elect Donald Trump. Remember, Jerome Bell, 2nd District of Virginia.
We're running out of time, so why don't you go ahead with the question? Who do you want to ask the question to?
I've got a question for Mr. Nick Fuentes.
All right, let's go.
As we all know, we are engaged in the culture war, like Gavin McInnes said, and I've got lots of questions, and I'm never getting any answers. Homosexuality has become normative in the conservative movement. I want to know, how does atheism help us in this?
Just because CPAC was at the Gay Lord and there was a rainbow fence outside means nothing.
Does it help us win the culture war? That's the question. Yes or no?
It doesn't. It does not. It's disgusting. I was watching something the other day with Pete Buttigieg's husband, Shasta, and look, I don't want to get graphic or anything, but it's just gross. We just don't need that. It's not Christian. It's not natural. It's not conservative. It has no place. So I'm willing to say that. Charlie Kirk isn't.
Real quickly, I will mention this. So I worked for Breitbart, and Breitbart spent $1 million on that Milo tour, and they knew what was going on behind the scenes, which was a lot of drug use, a lot of trashing of hotel rooms, and I've talked about all this before. Bannon knew about this, and so I think when you talk about this subject, you have to mention the role, and again, Milo is a person, I pray for him, I know him, and I hope he recovers, but, man, they spent $1 million on that. And I really don't think that the people in this audience or who are in the Breitbart audience would have gone like, oh, that's a great way to spend $1 million. Because it ended up being very, very bad, and I think it pushed the agenda that Nick, you were just talking about. So, there you go. I hate to ruin everyone's night, but...
All right, we've only got time for one more question, so sorry guys.
Yeah. Hey, it was nice to see you. I remember the interview we did at the Women's March.
Now, if I'm correct, when I saw you about maybe half a year ago, you were actually a Democrat.
Yeah.
And are you still?
I consider myself an independent.
Okay, independent. All right, what's your question?
Yeah.
What's that? Who is your question for?
I guess you, and generally for anyone else. But so I heard Alex Jones talking a little bit about one of the things that Trump did. Like one of his weaknesses was like the censorship involving big tech. So in the event that, say, like a moderate Democrat brings up like censorship or it even has a plan for it, would you or anyone else on that stage consider voting for him in November?
That's a great question. I'll actually address this. There's an example of that, and the example is Tulsi Gabbard, and you notice how she's not on any debate stages. So she actually sued Google for censoring her ads during the debate, and now the Democrats have kept her off the debate stage. So the answer is Tulsi Gabbard, and I would be willing to support Tulsi Gabbard if she's anti-war. Okay, the left wants to promise a bunch of free shit. Well, why don't you bring the troops home and quit spending $20 trillion in the Middle East? The other issue, I'm sorry, man, we gotta shut it down. I apologize. Your hat is great, though. You look fantastic. I mean, it's really... Alright, you know what? I've been giving the cue. We can take one more. So the man with the great-looking hat.
I just don't understand, why did Jeffrey Epstein not have the appropriate mental health care that he needed? He was very depressed, he was very repentant about what he did. Why did he not have appropriate counseling services in that prison?
You guys think Epstein killed himself or what?
He was so depressed and repentant, come on.
By the way, that's another story that InfoWars beat the mainstream media to. ABC News literally spiked that story to protect the Clintons. But you know, we weren't here for free speech. And we just had somebody bring up the fact that Alex said earlier that he doesn't think Trump is doing enough. So we decided to start a sticker initiative. We're giving away these stickers at InfoWarsStore.com if you want to be a part of it. Go to an event, go to City Hall, go to a Trump rally, go wherever you want. Operation Win 2020, and you put this over. It's a sticker. It's not duct tape, so it's not going to rip your, mustache or lips off or whatever. And that's one way we're trying to raise awareness and make this go viral, so that the president does do something. But quite frankly, I think you could investigate Google and Facebook and the rest of them for antitrust violations, and you could probably have them there. So we want to thank everybody for coming out here. Thank National File and Tom Papper for making it happen.
Thank you! Julian Assange is facing 175 years in prison for the crime.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Julian Assange is facing 175 years in prison for the crime of revealing United States war crimes, corruption, the death of civilians, the torture in Guantanamo Bay. When on Monday night he was strip searched 2 times. He was moved to 5 different holding cells and handcuffed 11 times to be placed in a glass box. What can we do to save his life?
I can actually answer that. So, the reason why Julian Assange is not pardoned and in the United States is because he will not turn over his sources.
That is the most principled stance a journalist can take.
So there you go. So hey, Julian Assange is great.
I ask that everyone in this room calls for Donald Trump to end the extradition of Julian Assange immediately. If he is brought to this country, we lose all free speech. There is no country left. We need the
speakers here tonight.